And welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Benched with Bubba, episode 579. Getting you ready for your big draft weekend. Those in Vegas, those at home, wherever you're at. It's the final hurrah as we have baseball less than a week away. Real baseball, meaningful baseball across the landscapes. And so we're going to do our NL draft storylines. We did AL on Wednesdays, NLs this week. And I got a big guest, big friend of the show, big friend of mine. Love talking to this guy. You can find his work at The Athletic. The man, the myth, the legend behind Court Stats. I didn't even do justice to the intro to that thing. He is an FSWA champion, folks. The champ is here. Best baseball article of 2022. The man is here. Find him on Twitter at John Laghezza. My buddy, Big John Stud. How we doing, my friend?
Yo, man, what's up? Thank you so much. I'm so uncomfortable. Like, you'd think I'm so like obnoxious and brash that I'd be fine talking about myself, and it makes me so uncomfortable. It really does. But thank you so much, man. I appreciate it. Yeah, I can't believe baseball season's here, right? All the prep. You know, we're in the small group of people thinking about 2023 from Thanksgiving through Christmas, and football ends and people start to shift over Valentine's Day to St. Patrick's Day to live drafts, and then like the avalanche is here. So I am so stoked. I said it to you offline, right? You don't really get ready at this point. You are ready.
We are ready. And it was funny because like our first fab runs are this weekend for those that have been drafting early, like us crazies. It really hit hard last night when I was recording our Thursday night with Bloomfield. When I was sitting there going, we have 7 days till real baseball. Like, this is the last episode before we talk real baseball. And like, this is nuts. It's great. It's what we live for. Like you said, you're ready. This is what it's all about. So this is kind of the last hurrah episode. I did the American League on Wednesday with the On the Wire guys. Got Big John Stud doing nationally. We'll go team by team. There's a ton more topics probably for some of these teams. I just kind of hit on a few of them. We'll talk about this and that and much, much more. But I kind of hinted at what you have going on. Plug all your stuff. You have this, I think you have 625 players ranked, actually.
Yes, of course. I have to like what was supposed to be a top 300 turn into a top 500 turn into
you
a
don't
top.
do anything small, my friend. You
just can't do it. I can't do it. And so but we also, you know what's funny? We also play draft champions.
Yes.
So you
need those.
You become really versed in getting deep. And to be honest, I wasn't done. I'm also the type of player in draft champions where I don't believe in like wasting picks. Every one of those is so precious to me, and I put a lot of work into them. So yeah, it ended up it's actually like 650 because you start adding people, right? Guys, the 2 guys in the Braves were challenging for the 5 spot there. You got to add these guys, right? They're relevant, so it's probably 650. But then I said, you know what? I wanted to kind of bridge the gap. You know, I do all this advanced analytical granular stuff, blah, blah, blah. And it's too much for some people. And I wanted to bridge a gap to some more like home leaguers. So I said, you know what? I'm going to write up just the first like 10 players or so. The first round of guys. But advanced, dense statistically, like our stuff, like the stuff that we talk about, but how to use it and give people an idea of like how to differentiate, you know, between the top, especially as high stakes guys. Everyone's the same. J. Rod is Acuna. They're all the same. They're all the same. But you know what? It's fun to pop the hood on the engine underneath there, you know, and see what makes it home. And of course, 10 players turn into, I don't know, I wrote up at least like 125. It's like 40,000 words. It's absolutely ridiculous. It is so ridiculous. But I got to admit, man, the feedback is just out of this world. I probably should have charged more. It's only $9.99 once, and I'm going to be updating the rankings through the whole year. Now it's got head-to-head. I did underdog rankings. Of course, I'm so obsessed that I did them that you could upload them, but I also battle tested them live on auto. Like
I remember you tweeted out about that and
live
stuff.
Streamed the draft on auto to show you the rankings, and the team came out awesome. So, like, you know, give you an idea that you and I we're in the arena, right? Because I think at this stage, with all the information and all the sources, it's very easy to sniff out like who doesn't have skin in the game right now. It's a little bit of a turnoff. I'm not saying you have to spend X amount of money. That's not what I'm saying.
No.
But I do think you got to be in the game, right?
Put your time in. Put your work in.
Right. Amen.
And that's always, and that's why it's kind of funny you say that because it made me laugh. A couple of weekends ago, we drafted Barf in San Francisco with a bunch of the guys. You know, guys are rolling in with their spreadsheets and all this stuff. I rolled in with my laptop to draft off of and nothing else, because I've been doing this since November. Like, I know what I want. I know my strategy. Like, I could like search Fangraphs or whatever if I needed to because I have my computer, but I did not have anything. I'm like, it's go time.
I'm actually curious. You bring up a really good point because I have found now I truly believe in that. Are you even looking at stats during a draft anymore? I feel like I've kind of done with that. I feel like I kind of have that work already. You know what I mean? Like I feel like I'm not really looking at.
I'm not looking like at my team stats like projected wise. I'm not doing any of that. Like
No,
I
no, I
know
mean like player stats. Like I'm not really
yeah.
doing analysis. I mean, at this point, I feel like I
No,
know.
if I do it all, it's like an in game like player A versus player B, just kind
Okay,
of
yeah, that makes
just like
sense. Yeah,
that. But that's it. Like it's literally one of the last picks before I
yeah,
do
that
that.
makes sense.
I'm so locked in. Like you and I have discussed these players more than anybody cares to hear. Like we have a pretty good idea about who
Yeah,
these guys are by now. So,
yeah.
but that's the beauty of what we do. It helps us. That's why I tell people like I love doing this because it helps me. It gets me ready to go.
Oh
So
man, that's funny you mentioned that. The rankings, the most selfish part about it,
oh yeah,
the best part, dude, for all the arguing that we do, like in a healthy sense, arguing.
yeah,
And I feel like, yeah, I make a lot of great points. I use a lot of stats and stuff. Dude, they're gone. I never
yeah.
get to cite them. They're just gone. So here I have like this. You name a player, you go on the site, you could literally put in a player name, it takes you right to the player, and there's my 300 to 400 word spiel
Yeah.
on them, pro, con, whatever. I'm really not trying to make an argument, I'm just kind of presenting.
Yeah.
And a lot of times I'm like, oh yeah, that's what I really liked or didn't like about it. So it's almost simple, right? People say when you write stuff down, it's easy to memorize. So maybe along
Mhm.
those lines. So yeah,
That's how I learned.
yep.
I was horrible at just watching a presentation. That's why I was more of a math guy than like a sociology guy or something. Like I had to put my hands and do things. That was the way I work. So again, caveman stats over here. People do spreadsheets over there.
Yeah, I love that, man. That totally
That's
makes a
how
lot of
we
sense.
live.
Yeah.
All right, let's go team by team. Let's have a little fun here,
Yeah.
Big John Stud. We'll start. It's alphabetical order. Just keep it simple at home. We'll start with the Arizona Diamondbacks, and this is a fun one. It's fun for us, not fun for Carson Kelly, who had a fractured forearm, so he's going to be out for a while. That's just the easy way of saying it, layman terms way of saying it. So that means our boy Gabriel Moreno, who it was kind of confusing. Like, okay, when's he going to play? What's he going to do? The questions throughout the early part of draft season. Well, now he's pretty much locked in. This is his role, barring just complete catastrophic failure. Over like the last 4 main events, kind of since the news is all kind of broke, his ADP is 200. He's the 13th catcher off the board in main events. What are you doing with Gabriel? Where are you moving him to? Because I've had the idea in my head if the power were to show up, he's closer to Tyler Stevenson for me. If the power stays low, we talked about it last night, he is legitimately Kyber Ruiz. That's who he is. So it's a tough realm. How do you see him?
Yeah, I think you kind of nailed it, right? The hit tool is good, but he hasn't shown us the roto juice that we need. So I hadn't really been drafting at all. I also
Yeah.
feel like the flip side of that Arizona story, Carson Kelly was one of the more underpriced catchers. You know what? I mean, I feel like he was set for a 50-50 split. And there's quite a few, there's a few of those positions. Toronto's like that. Very hard to differentiate between the catchers. They're also in good enough lineups where those guys might not DH. And I found that a lot of those guys are being overpriced. So I wasn't going there. Now I think you have to take a very serious look. I ended up moving him up to C13 right behind Cal Raleigh, but it's more of a theoretical thing. If you like it more than Raleigh, that's fine. Again, Raleigh, I think the batting average floor, is significantly lower, right, than Moreno, but who's going to get you 25 ding dongs? And something we spoke about off air. I'm into the Seattle environment. It's caught a little bit of heat, depending, I think, what kind of park factor is using. I've just been using last year's post humidor, and Seattle for righties was top 4 in everything, right? Home run to fly ball, home run to barrel, home run to blast for righties. So, not saying that explains some of it, but I think we saw some of that. So,
Yeah.
I have him right behind Raleigh as a full time catcher, which I think matters, right? I'm not going to
Yeah.
understate the plate appearances. I think they're quality plate appearances.
Yeah.
And as long as the batting average isn't terrible, which I don't think will be, he won't hurt you. But people are kind of putting power on this guy that we haven't quite seen.
100%. That's where I'm at. Is I think there's power there. We have not seen the power. The biggest thing I agree with on there is the playing time, and it's something all of us have talked about all off season. Is there's so many committees at catchers now. Well, we kind of eliminated one, unfortunately, and that changes things. The bats are king, as much as we like to talk about it. So it is interesting to say the least. Sticking in Arizona here, Jake McCarthy took the fantasy world by storm last year with his 8 home runs and 23 stolen bases in 99 games, even hit for average. If you combine his minor league totals, 34 bags last year. Boy can run. That's clear. That's evidence. He has an ADP also of around 102 right now in the main events. How are you approaching Jake McCarthy? Because he's one of those guys that I'm so torn on because I like more of a power profile early than just speed. Because I just don't think the power, I guess a full season, maybe 12, 13 show up. How are you looking at Jake McCarthy?
All right, just really quick before I forgot to mention it, I made sure to really prepare for this because the On the Wire boys was so damn good in the first half of that. I'm looking at you guys. I was waiting for an episode, and then I saw it on your feed. I was really excited. So I was going to walk into this unprepared. Like I said, we don't have to get ready, but I actually got ready for this one. All right, so
Right.
McCarthy, this stinks. I really wanted to like McCarthy because, again, doing the work that I was doing with the Daily Show every day last year, it gets you quick on additions, right? If you're digging through advanced stats, playing time, and all this stuff, not everyone's doing that. I had McCarthy everywhere. He carried me to some glory last year, right? So you want to kind of show him the love and start drafting him again. But let's be honest, the hit tool is really not great, right? He doesn't really walk enough. The swinging strike is too high. He chases too much, in zone a bit too low. He kind of outperformed across the board. Anytime you see a sub 300 ex Woba, it's not like a great, or he's not like a great hitter. I think the lineup placement is now in danger, right? With Carroll, so there's a chance that that's funny. Almost, I don't know. A guy like McCarthy, you might want him at 9 rather than 6.
Yeah,
To
like
give it a circular
roster
thing.
resource has him at 3, and I hate that.
That's not it. I don't.
Yeah,
Again, listen. Jason is
awesome.
awesome.
I don't see
Okay,
how
he
he
does
hits third.
inimitable work. He's also a little bit too powerful for one person in the fantasy baseball space. I mean that
100%.
genuinely. I mean that from the bottom. I wish I was that, but I'm not. Maybe I'm jealous, right? But it's the truth. He could move something, and it will actually create like a reaction. So to me, that's a hard no, dog. No, McCarthy's not going to bat. McCarthy's not going to bat third. I don't think at all. I think there's an outside chance that you get like second. I feel like that's a stretch. The on base really worked because the BABIP was absolutely through the roof. I mean, 337 WOBA, 298 X is hard to repeat with, again, the walk skills is not really there. And I mean, 28% fly ball rate, 37 pull, sub 5 barrel, 2% blast. These are not really kind of power metrics that you think of. But also, I've been splitting, and this is the stuff really I've been focused on in my rankings, is all the pulled stuff. So he had 36 pulled fly ball line drives. He didn't really do a ton of damage on him, and it was in 350 PA. So if he even at 600, it's not enough. I don't know, man. I think McCarthy's I think he's a bit overpriced. I get if you need steals, he just fits, and it's tough, right? Because people think he's one of those guys that could steal a million bases, but from the 9 hole and with a flawed profile, is a chance he's not as good as we want him to be.
Yeah, no, we're on the same page. That's why I've been hesitant to rank him high, like a lot of people want to. There's a lot of big fans of him. Atlanta Braves. This one kind of sucked coming down on Thursday. I was a Raisel Iglesias fan just because I still think he's one of the top end closers. You pay the top end premium for him, which is always nice. Shoulder inflammation. They're not saying it's like season ending, of course, but anytime I hear shoulder, I'm never happy. Like, that's just a bad deal all around. I'm still like not throwing in the towel until I see more information. Get some imaging back, something to give us a report. But he's starting the year on the IL. All signs point to AJ Minter, my friend. So, how are you if you're going into drafts this weekend? How are you looking at the Braves closing situation? Because I only ask, like, some teams were like, screw it, but the Braves are a darn good ball club. They're going to win ball games. So Minter will get his chances. And over the last 4 main events, though, ADP of 370, as high as 262. So how are you looking at the Braves situation?
Well, first of all, Raisel Iglesias now the clubhouse leader for sunk DC teams over the last 2 years. Right? If you drafted him high, you just paid the price. He just destroyed you. And there's really nothing you can do. The one thing I would say, which has been tough, because I don't want to necessarily disagree with you, because I'm in line with you when it comes to shoulders. Last year, I don't want to say overreacted. I'm sure if you reacted to these early shoulder injuries, you kind of got burned because it created a lot of good value. Zach Wheeler and Luis Castillo, 2 guys in particular, was extremely high. And if you remember, I was making a tremendous stink about fading Walker Buehler for my SP1 overall Zach Wheeler. And then he hurt his shoulder. And I was like, run for your lives, And he ended up being really good. Although he went through another injury and ended up being really good, which is why it was 2 separate injuries. He returned and was excellent afterwards. So whatever, that's a different story for a different day. But the thing is, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater just yet.
Yep.
I'm not going to pay any kind of premium. But you really do have to set a kind of bar for him where you're thinking, if he only misses a month, which we saw, because listen, that's a real thing. Even Gallon last year, it was a forearm thing. It was, oh my God, forearm, but it was the other side of the forearm. What are we worrying about? And he ended up being really good. So maybe teams now are really like, hey man, anything that's a little off kilter, we're just going to pump the brakes on him. So yeah, I'm not crossing him off yet because, and I think Silver was the first one. Rob Silver was tweeting about it, of course. Like he's obviously going to be objectively smart about this stuff. Is don't just be careful because you could be talking about RP3
Yeah.
from May forward, and you cross them off your board. So don't do that. I think it would be Minter because they have other lefties. Although he has not been great against righties. Last year already struggled 9% walk rate, 1.3 whip against righties. But the Arsenal's pretty good. Fastball, cutter, and changeup. Max 331 X slug, minimum 31% whiff rate. So yeah, you gotta think it's Minter. Like you said, they're competitive. They've also shown propensity of going to a singular closer. You know what I mean? Like they go to a closer. So I think it's gonna be Minter as long as he can do it, providing the other lefties don't completely derail. Because if they do, Minter probably gets a tough lefty in a big spot.
Yep, that's the concern I have. They still have other lefties, like you mentioned, but if they fail, it's a big issue. You don't have to give away all your strategies if you still have drafts coming up, but I agree with you, and I know you're an old school WWF fan.
Oh yeah, obsessed.
The $1 Million Man always said everyone's got a price.
Oh yeah.
So with Raisel, because I agree with you. Like Wheeler, I was all about the dip last year. Rodon's been tempting me this year, even though I'm scared he's tempting because he's falling. Like there's dudes there's a price. There's a
Perfect
price.
candidate.
So what's your price on Iglesias? Because like over the last four main events, his ADP was around 70. But I think I need to go lower. I think I'm in like to me, I'm thinking 110 to 120, give or take. Maybe it needs to be lower. Maybe I'm too low. So like if you had to just guess, because it's all guessing, what's the price range for you?
Well, something we talked about it off air was the difficulty in rankings and like how a guy got injured, so you move up one rank. It's not like that. The ripple in the pond creates all these different effects, people moving into different tiers and stuff. So it is hard to gauge. No, I'm not going to go top. I'm not going top 70. That's not happening. What I was getting at with the rankings is what I found that maybe it's a little bit like simplistic. I just start slotting him. Where does he fit in the list? I just passed Pete Fairbanks, who I think is one, a very good pitcher.
Mm-hmm.
Two, I think he has the job. On three, a winning team. So I wouldn't sacrifice that. That's where I'm going. If I could check those three boxes, I'm going to take that first. So I think Fairbanks might be the last of those guys. Like, I'm not really sure how I feel about like a Barlow at that point. Yeah, and I think it's off the rails. So that's where I am. And that puts me at like 125, right? Exactly what you were saying. So yeah.
It's funny, I didn't because you started saying that, so I opened up my rankings, which I updated yesterday after the Reese news. So Iglesias is updated. All these guys are updated.
Reese's feces.
Yeah, I don't want to hear about it. I'm depressed by that one. That's my boy, and he just went down the shitter. But I looked, and I'm almost in sync with you. I have Iglesias as my 13th reliever. He's right after the Fairbanks Paul Sewell range. Basically, right. For me, it's once we finish those guys that are pretty much locked in, and we start getting in the committee guys or the Barlows, which I'm not the biggest fan of. I'm like you, Iglesias slots in there for now. Until I hear he's more hurt. Yeah, until I hear he's if more hurt or not, I'll take the chance there going, okay, like you said, because I had him ranked, I think, 4th or 5th, especially after the Edwin news. Like, I love Iglesias. So I'll take that chance at that point in time. All right, let's go to the we're still on the Braves.
Plus, he's an easy drop, right?
He's an easy drop. That's the thing. He's an easy drop. He's not costing you a premium. So that's good.
Yeah.
Vaughn Grissom, all spring, people are like, oh, it's Vaughn. He can play shortstop. He can do it. And, he could, I guess, but the Braves don't care. Orlando Arcia is going to be the shortstop. So Vaughn Grissom is in the minor leagues. The question I have for you, a lot of people drafted him. Are you dropping him? Are you taking him at a certain price in drafts, not knowing when he's coming up? Because I've heard different numbers of when his, extra year comes up type stuff. So how are you looking at Vaughn Grissom?
Yeah, he just recently popped up. Like, I wasn't buying it at first because I didn't think the defense would be there. I thought they might add somebody, and that would answer my question. I certainly didn't think Orlando Arcia would take the job. When that appeared to be the case, that's when I started drafting Vaughn Grissom. So I want to be very clear that I wasn't on the train. I kind of hopped on, and I don't think the price was too high. He was going last of all the kind of second baseman. You know what I mean? Anybody you would have taken first was gone already. India and Estrada, like any of the guys that I would have taken first was certainly gone. Even Brandon Lau, all those guys were gone. So I didn't really pay any premiums, but I did hope I was getting some a little roto juice, right? That's just how I described it. Home runs and steals, however they kind of come, definitely steals with a chance, who knows, to even from a 9 spot, really make some noise in front of the sickest, front 5 or whatever. Right now, he's not a week 0 drop unless you need him to be, because I think he checks a box of being a high upside player, but I wouldn't draft him at all right now. Even in a 30, I'm just going in other directions. For the guys that I'm speculating on, I'm trying to think if any are National League. Oh yeah, there are. Maybe we'll get to one later. I want guys that might be able to make a splash. Like, I like to make splash on bad teams, right? So I have a ton of like late Connor Capel. You know what I mean?
Yep.
This guy is available like in the 600s or 700s or whatever.
Yep.
And he could make the big club opening day, and you might get a little bit of love there. So I'd rather go for that route than a guy I think is going to be benched to start.
100% with you. And then with the other injuries in the Braves rotation, waiting for Soroka to come and other situations, there's an opening for a fifth starter. Jared Schuster seems to have the path to success here. Dylan Dodds had a good spring as well. Some smart Braves fans in one of the Discords I'm in said they don't even really need a fifth starter, though, for a week or so. So these guys might start in the minors for an extra reliever, so on and so forth, especially with the Iglesias news. How are you viewing like the Schusters of the world come draft day? Because they're popular names, they're moving up boards, but to me, there's still some question marks on actually what we're getting from them.
Yeah, I'm not there. I'm not kind of uncertain where to spot them because again, it's not certainty who it is and if the fifth starter was named, if they're even going to get a whack. And I think again, the simple caveman kind of Uga slotting method.
Yep.
They are going places where there's to start the season with a chance to stay in the rotation. And I don't really know much about them. Listen, Schuster checks some boxes. He had 139 innings last year. That's kind of one of the things I look for when I'm, looking for young pitchers that are going to get a spot this year or guys that had at least 100 innings. So I'm not trying to demean them. He's pretty good, 3.29 ERA, 105 whip, good, 45 ground ball rate. This is Schuster. So he checks a lot of boxes, but again, I'm not reaching for any of these guys. I want more. I want something more sturdy, and there's a lot of late pitching that I like. We're not talking AL, but a Red Sox starter. A couple of Red Sox starters, I think, are going way later than he is.
Yeah, I'm a Brian
that
Bayo
are going to get
fan.
the ball.
But I'm a Bayo fan. I know who you're talking about, though.
I love them in combination.
Yeah, he's
I love them in combination. Give me Cutter and Bayo. Even if I have to take Bayo first, whatever. You can take Bayo first. You slot him right in the reserves. You come back, and you're going to get Crawford in, like, really good matchups to start the year, too, from, like, pick 600. Yeah, you got to be careful. ADP is kind of stupid,
Yep. Get your guys. That's the bottom line. Get your guys. Let's go to the Chicago Cubs here. And, they're a team that probably is not going to be that great, but you never know. You never know. Baseball happens. They're in need of a closer, and right now it looks like it's either going to be Michael Fulmer or Brad Boxberger. It sounds like probably to potentially trade at some point in time would be my guess. Fulmer's ADP is 233, Boxberger 369. Are you trying to draft either one of these guys?
I mean, you'd have to be pretty desperate. If we're talking like fab and waiver leagues, I'd rather speculate somewhere else because I think it's going to be split. And I don't think either one of them really, have the wow factor. They both have a double-digit walk rate, which isn't great. Fulmer had a 12% K-minus walk last year. Even though he's got pitches with whiff rates, his command is not as good as I thought it was, like from a narrative point of view. Boxberger has the 30% CSW, which is like a good place to start, but the fastball is really not very good. So I'm not sure. The Cubs are probably going to go like a hot hand, right? They'll probably go with, if you look good, if you get the save, you get it again. And if not, you're probably out. And I wouldn't be surprised if 5 guys have 8 saves for the Cubs this year.
Yep.
Right, Hughes is still there. Right, Brandon Hughes might just be the closer.
Yeah,
right?
Hughes could be the guy. Let's not forget Wick is still there, who used to be a closer for them. Not saying he would be, but he's got history. So there's a lot of
close games, right.
There's a lot of options there in Chicago.
Hughes was like the guy down the stretch too. Like he
was the guy.
That's kind of funny how we haven't made him the closer. I don't know. I don't know how the public does these things. Like I don't know how they figure it out. I just know that that's weird, right? Because that was Kyle Finnegan 2 years ago. This guy 100%. Who's just not that great on a team that's not that great, but round and round the carousel went. He ended up being the guy who was going to. Although Hughes had like a home run thing, he was getting the job done. Which I don't know how you get saves while you're giving a home runs. I'm not sure how you.
That's rough.
You pull it off.
It's a skill.
But he slammed the door for them down the stretch. And it really wasn't a mishmash. So I don't know. Again, I want a little more definitive stuff. I think as I've entered into the high stakes arena, Bubba, I'd rather have, not to say I want skill over role, but there's no role to be had there, right? You know what I mean?
Yep.
So if the role is uncertainty, give me the guys with the skills. Just give me the dope skills and the filthy stuff.
100%.
The guys you could maybe start anyway that might come down with a win during the week. 4 innings and maybe 6 Ks or 3 innings and 5 Ks. It's not as good as a starter, but they're better than bad pitchers that might get lit up and not save the game.
100%. I've been, as I've started playing more high stakes, I've been with you. I've been using that approach more and more. And I even mentioned it last night. I said, when you guys, like someone asked about, how much does pay and fab for 2-start streamers? And we said, well, a lot of 2-start streamers aren't any good, period. So sometimes a 1-start streamer is better, or a middle reliever that's got some great matchups is even better than them. So keep that in mind.
I don't chase 2 starters at all. I think that's a losing method. I think it's a sign that your rotation's bad.
Bingo. And that's a point I've been trying to make this season, is make my starting pitching even better, and I'll stream hitters this year.
Yeah. Also, I with the handicapping work that I do, if anyone follows that stuff, I kind of look at players and teams in terms of like sine waves. And better teams have higher waves that last longer. Yeah. But even bad teams win 60 games, and even the Pirates score 10 runs sometimes. And if you're like, yourself who follows daily, sometimes it happens in bunches. Guys kind of get, I don't know if it's hot together, they're just healthy together. It happens. And there are times, this is a big thing for the fantasy community, they assign, like, I don't know, the jersey is what they're attacking. Pittsburgh, bad. And that's not, sometimes it's like, yo, man, you really don't want to go up against the Pirates right now. You know what I mean?
And they're actually playing good baseball.
Yeah. I remember, what's funny? It actually got me a gig because I was on VSIN, and you got to make a call, and I wanted to be bold, but I believed in it. And I remember picking Zach Thompson with the Pirates to beat the Dodgers first 5. The Dodgers were like struggling with openers or something like that. And everybody's like, what? You know what I mean? It gets these crazy responses. Like, you can't do that. The Dodgers money line is minus 200 right now. You know what I mean? Like, they're the Pirates. It's baseball, yo.
It's great. That's great.
So yeah, I don't chase jerseys. Like,
you don't need to. You need to, and that's why, especially for daily, I shrink my sample size down. I like, give me the last week, give me something small. I need to know how these guys are playing right now, not for the season.
Yeah, healthy too, right?
Yep.
And it's funny. People challenge like, oh, there's no hot streaks. Sometimes, what if I told you 30% of OPS was health?
Yeah, bingo.
Then you might just say, hey, he's not like hot right now. It's just healthy.
Yep.
What if I told you another 15% of OPS was timing? And OPS, when a guy's running hot, it just means he's healthy and his timing is good because his freaking foot doesn't hurt right now. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like,
Shocker.
We forget these guys are regular people, man.
They're Major League Baseball players.
Sucks, yo.
Yeah. They're the most talented baseball players in the world, but yes, any injury is going to derail that talent. This is how it works.
Yeah, and particularly hand stuff, right? Fingers and wrists. There's plenty of injuries where the guy would tell you, I'd rather get hit in the head with a 2x4 than have this finger injury because I can't do what I need to do. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Yeah,
crazy.
It's funny.
Absolutely crazy.
Yeah, it is what it is.
The other Chicago question I have for you, because it's just a weird team for fantasy in general. Justin Steele and Hayden Wesniewski are 2 fun young arms that are talked about quite a bit. Steele has an ADP of around 309, Hayden Wesniewski around 219, so almost 100 picks apart. Who do you think finishes with a higher fantasy season?
Yeah, I'm not a big Steele guy at all. I don't really like Steele that much. Double-digit walk rate, 10% swing strike, 29% O swing, 87 zone contact. So that's like a pretty rough combination, right? You're not winning in the zone, 87 Z-con. You're not forcing chase rates. That's very low chase rate. The fastball is graded very low, 91 stuff plus. But I do my own. I do like objective stuff. I like to use measurements. People can kind of back test a little more. I don't have all the algos for that stuff. So this is Justin Steele. 56% use on the fastball. That's way too high for 92 miles an hour and only 20% whiff rate. The reason being is almost 20 inches of vertical movement. That's a sink, right? People, when you hear vertical move, we want that number low as possible. Those are your rising fastballs. They don't rise. They just don't sink as much as the field. And if you want to go a little, just the one, we won't go into weeds. We'll go in one weed. The reason why that matters, you want to throw a flat fastball, then you aim that up in the zone, and then it has 2 kind of effects, right? So a fastball with that angle will be harder to match to send out, but it's also higher in the zone and farther from the hands. So like you're actually creating distance and making it harder, right, to get there. So that's part of like the why the high fastball is effective and why the shape can matter. So Steele, I don't think it has any of that. He has a good amount of arm side run, which is probably part of why it's effective. Like 15 inches is pretty good. But I'm just not a fan of Steele. I like Wisniewski. I think this is an S. I have Wisniewski, although I don't know, those names can be difficult. But anyway,
Yeah.
he had a 2.18 expected ERA with the 20% K minus walk, 35 O swing on contact, 17% hard hit rate on Fangraphs. I had to like double check that one, right? You're kind of rubbing your eyes when you see that one. You're going, gosh, I got to get outside. I've been doing too many spreadsheets. If this guy's popping up with a 17% hard hit rate, dude, he's really, really hard to get a hold of. He's got a devastating sweeper, 37 use, 299 X slug, 34% whiff rate. Really, really good. The fastball is just kind of meh. We were talking about this also. Sometimes it's not in the diagnostics. It's in the tunneling and the sequencing and how you use these things. And he's pairing it with the sinker that's been really tough on righties, 70% ground ball rate to righties for Wisniewski. Remember, he was touted. He played for, what is that team? That team that's always crying poverty, that doesn't know how to develop pitching. That would be the New York Yankees. The New York Yankees traded Hayden Wisniewski for, believe it or not, Scott Efros and a bag of oranges. Right around the same time, they traded Jordan Montgomery for some guy with a hurt foot that doesn't play baseball and another bag of oranges. So we're 2 bags of oranges richer now here in New York. Really, really terrible. It's very I love the Yankees. Like my son's bedroom is like literally pinstripe. Like it's memorabilia everywhere. Like we love the Yankees, but they are absolutely terrible when it comes to maximizing youth. I think I'd call it. They just don't develop anybody. It's awful. They're really, really bad. Really, really bad. All the young pitchers. Imagine if the Yankees had J.P. Sears and Waldichuk and Wisniewski right now. We'd be talking about an exciting young rotation and not like some injured Frankie Montas. Are you kidding me? He's already hurt, looking bad. Whatever. So,
everyone knew he was hurt before they traded him. I never understood.
Yeah, it's just terrible. And Newbar was like on the IL when the Yankees traded for him. He didn't even hide it. He was already on the IL with the same foot injury that's floored several Yankees. Looking at you, Chin-Min Wong. Man, I remember when he stepped on that base and it was over for him. Those foot injuries are a killer. That the Liz Frank stuff it just doesn't heal. They easily re-aggravate. So whatever. I'd much rather have Wisniewski. I believe he's going to win the 5 spot. Rob DiPietro, we're in the Widowmaker with a couple of studs in there. National champ, Big Bobby Nisson's in there too. And Wisniewski was like a last bidding round guy. So I had like the hammer and Dip went for like $8, man. So just to give you an idea, not to appeal to authority, but DiPietro's a fantastic fantasy player. And to go, I think it was like literally $7 or $8. So that'll give you an idea of sharp people are on Wisniewski, including myself, hopefully. So yeah, I think he's going to be fantastic. He also has one of my highest honors. I'm drafting him in underdog. So like that's
big.
Yeah, he's in the last round of I have him on a short list of pitchers that I think is worth pairing with your studs up front. Yeah, I think he's going to get the rock all year. I think he's going to be fantastic.
Outstanding. Yeah, I'm moving him up my boards as we speak.
I like him a lot.
Let's go to the Cincinnati Reds, and we love Great American Small Park, the best ballpark to hit in these days. And I want to talk about 2 outfielders that to me are a lot of fun. Jake Fraley gets all the love. He's at an ADP of 241.75, but don't sleep on TJ Friedl, is what I'm going to say, at ADP of 328.5. I like him as an end-game extra outfielder if you need it, especially this opening week. They get 6 really nice matchups in Great American Small Park to start the season. How do you look at these 2 guys? Like I said, Fraley's the guy everyone talks about, but Friedel's a baller too in my mind. I could be totally off here. But what's your thoughts on these 2 Reds outfielders?
I think Fraley is the reason we have DFS probably. So
career,
this one too, I couldn't believe this was true. So this is Jake Fraley, career versus lefties, 149 batting average. This is correct. 476 OPS. Could that really be true? 35% K rate. Dude, he's not going to play against lefties. So again, weekly leagues, I think he's truly format dependent. He's site dependent, let's call it. Not format 5x5, but site dependent, meaning weekly leagues, Fraley is not really touchable for me. NFBC leagues, he should be going a lot higher than he should, because you're going to get lots of 3 and 4 game sets where he's playing that you absolutely want him. But man, he's going to be very tough to roll out in weekly leagues. If they see 3 lefty, he's not playing. He's objectively terrible. Hold on, to Cincinnati, this I just can't get over. Again, people are on to like, oh, Cincinnati's a good ballpark. But I think because I've been purely separating the post-Humidor era, Bubba, Cincinnati's out of control, right? So not only did they lead the league in home runs, the ballpark, which is funny because the Reds stunk, right? But also not just totals, because totals can be misleading depending who played there. I think I was number 1 in home run to fly ball, home run per barrel, home run to blast rate. They only had one hitter that hit 20 home runs. No one else had over 15. Where did these home runs come from? They're all from the ballpark, dude. Think about if the dude. What I'm getting at is if Cincinnati was actually good, those numbers would look freakish. They led the league in home runs and didn't hit home runs. They were 19th in home runs. So this park is absolutely outlandish. Play Fraley, total bases and home run props, DFS on those days. Again, short sets in Cincinnati. TJ Friedel, dude, you don't have to tell me, man. Friedel's been my dude. In fact, he actually won me a couple leagues last year, like DC. He won me a DC league last year, right? Hard to find those plate appearances, leading off every day. I'm not sure why the market doesn't like him. He had over 2,000 plate appearances in the minors. His 600 plate appearance pace, which is also something I've been trying to highlight in my rankings, right? A good way to kind of digest these players. So his 600 plate appearance pace in the minors, 275 hitter on a 367 OBP. Okay. 90, 62, 12, and 6. I think it is. I have a 60. I know it's. I think it's 6. Yeah, I think 12 and 6. And we saw a bit of that down the stretch. Got to be careful with the Friedel season stats. He was up and down. They were not using him. He wasn't playing. Then he got hurt. Then he got demoted. When he came back and was leading all 43 games, 267, 2018, 8-2 in 43 games on the stretch, 890 OPS, dude, 139 WRC plus. He had a 4% K minus walk, 27 chase rate, 89 in zone contact. The reason why that matters is, prototypical leadoff hitter. Like, hello, dude. They don't have the hitters. This guy's not hitting. He's not hitting ninth. This is not Atlanta with Grissom. He's going to bat leadoff in front of John India. TJ Friedel is going to lead off in Cincinnati, and he's not even being drafted right now. Yep. I don't know if he's 12-team viable. I think he's 12-team bench viable.
Yep, 100%.
Like I'm have a big high stakes point league coming up. I'm going to maybe draft him in late. It's really tough because we talk about this, the rate of replacement, right? The waivers are very good. But, man, that's a hard thing to pass up because leading off all year, you're talking about 90 runs.
Oh, yeah.
And if he's going to be double-double, right? If he's going to go double-double, he even showed you some you know what to do. You got to be careful kind of extrapolating. But, again, if a guy does it means he could do it. And we talk about the ballpark. So he could be like 20 and 8 and bat 265 or better. And I don't want to even juice up his 90th percentile is like comeback player of the year is like Sed Mullins from a few years ago, which would be weird. Yeah. You know, right? If he went 25, people would be shocked.
Yep.
But it's going to be half the ballpark, right? 20 of them are going to be at home. So I don't know. I really like Friedel. I think plate appearances cost plus paid appearances plus environment plus underlying skill set. You know, I think he's finally got a chance. See, I believe that's something you talk about with players are human. Like, he got a chance, and he showed you everything you want to see. Why are we trying to find something wrong with that? I just think he's good. Yeah.
Yep, I'm with you. The dude's good. He's very good. And
the splits are strong, too, I think.
Yeah, to me, it's funny, like, especially if you want to use the splits argument, he's better than Fraley. Fraley might have the overall better skill set. I'm not going to argue that conversation, even though I think it's closer than people think. That's why I asked the question.
Yeah, I think Fraley's pop he's got much better. He's got much better pop.
Yeah, but the reason I wanted to bring it up is because like it seems like Friedel is like the guy, the forgotten man, and he shouldn't be. Like these guys, in reality, they should almost be going next to each other in drafts, in my opinion. Where
far apart. I like Friedel apples to apples, providing the format. Like I said, NFBC man, Fraley is pretty exciting because you're talking about a guy there aren't many players like that are you can't even look at them against one-handed hitter and then they're it's like Jock Peterson level type stuff.
Yep. No, It's crazy. It's crazy. What else is crazy is these flamethrowers that the Reds have atop their order. Just wish it was a different ballpark, but they'll make it work here. You got Hunter Greene. You have Nick Lodolo. Greene at ADP around 97. Lodolo around 117. That's spaced out recently. Like earlier in draft season, it was yin and yang most of the time. Now they got about a 20 pick buffer zone. If you had to pick between the two, are you going Greene or are you going Lodolo?
Oh, I don't know. I guess it's Greene. But after doing kind of the deep dive on him, and I'll be quicker. This one I had tweeted about. Hunter Greene came out of the All-Star break. The velo was up 2 miles an hour. He pulled back on the slider for more of the fastball. Not that the slider was bad, 290 X-lug, 38 whiff. The fastball is one of the best in the game. And down the stretch, he was a straight-up god. 6 games started, 35 innings, 1.02 ERA, 0.85 whip. He had a 31% K minus walk. Not 31% K rate, 31% K minus walk. So I think if you showed it to us, it's a skill you own. Hunter Greene could be Cy Young this year. So the ballpark, I don't know, man. When he misses up in the zone, he's going to give up home runs. I think that's what it is. Hopefully, they'll be reticent of throwing it with men on. That's the best I could give you, where you just might get like a Garrett Cole kind of thing, right? Listen, the ballpark in Yankee Stadium is not doing Cole any favors. When he misses, those are home runs.
Yeah,
so look at it, it's a pretty high praise for Greene if you could think about him like Garrett Cole. Lodolo, see, I was dinging Lodolo, and he's one of the guys you needed the microscope for. Because between the injury and the pitch mix, I think the season-long stats were a bit misleading. He ended up making a bit of an adjustment and throttling the sinker, which is what you wanted to see, was his worst pitch, for that four-seamer, which he's got so much like horizontal movement on. It's really good. And that curveball, which I described as colon collapsing. I mean, I don't even know how whatever. If you see that thing, I would just drop the bat on the floor. It has a 46% whiff rate. He also down the stretch was really good. 88 innings, 3.35 ERA, 30% K rate. But the whip's up there because the walks are not great. So I would go Greene over Lodolo. And then I know you asked about Ashcraft, who, dude, the guy throws straight up smoke.
Yep.
And he's going to get the ball. Little hard to start in Cincinnati, just because the bat, everything goes crazy there. Everything just goes, like, he's going to have more pitch to contact, which is not what you want there. So I think Ashcraft's a good streamer, like in a deep league. He's probably a pretty good streamer. You get him on the road in Pittsburgh, you probably want him. He showed some strikeout stuff this spring also, but, he's the guy where I think the park matters maybe more.
Yeah, he seems like he's going to find the zone, give a lot more contact, and that gets you in trouble there. So, but then again, he can strike out guys. He's proven that as well. So we'll have to kind of wait and see with him. But ADP at 349 makes him interesting, to say the least. Let's go to Colorado because we have to, and they're next up on the list. You could make arguments. Hey, Jurickson Profar is going to lead off now, and he's free in drafts. That's cool. I'm not going to argue that. Not going to argue it. But the one question I want to ask about the Rockies, just because I have my biases that listeners know by now with Chris Bryant. His ADP is 138.5. He's already having quote unquote back issues in the spring training. Are you even looking to draft Chris Bryant?
I mean, not in a serious league, no.
Yeah.
And definitely not in a long-term league like no draft and hold, certainly not.
Yeah.
I think because I have some exposure to GPP stuff, underdog, drafters, these kind of top payout tournaments, I think you can't undersell the potential on a weekly output for a guy like Bryant, right? Like, so Bryant in cores is probably in line for some pretty diesel spike weeks. That's as far as I want to take it, though. Right? Again, it's very easy to ding him, right? He missed it last year. He stunk, whatever, but he had 4,000 plate appearances of an 880 OPS, 135 WRC+. He hit 3 home runs this spring training already. He's batting 320. The thing is, he's kind of going around guys that are the same kind of prototype as him, right? Yep. Santander and who's the? I got one more. Oh, and Castellanos. Yep. They're kind of right. It's like a no speed, purely power. You're hoping to get some average. You would think Bryant would be the best batting average guy. Coors is certainly going to help that. Yep. How is he going to respond to the travels right now and the rocky road and all that stuff? Sometimes it could be a headache dealing with Colorado, although he's playing every day. He's healthy, I think. Right, he's DHing when he's not.
Yeah, if he's healthy, he's playing every day, no doubt.
That's what I mean. So I have him in like best ball stuff, but I'm so worried about the injuries and the surrounding context. They're so bad. Like you could literally pitch around him. They're terrible.
100%. That's why I just put one question for the Rockies. It's just such platoons, so many headaches there, and Bryant is the only viable guy. But it's like you said, if he gets hot, what stops them from walking him 4 times?
Yeah, or in the age of these awful teams, like off the page bad teams, like Colorado, I think is.
They're close.
We saw the Juan Soto with Washington right before the exit. Yeah. The guy will have 27 home runs and 35 RBIs. Like that, even that doesn't. that doesn't really pay the bills. You got to get home run. You got to get, and then because it gets walks so damn much, even if Soto's average happened to be low, but even if his average was high, it's almost not like a carrying tool because it doesn't happen enough. So I'm afraid that's what you're going to get for Chris Bryant, which again maybe makes you poke your ears up for like a point league, right? If he starts,
that's
to
why
drop,
your underdog comment's very good because also it's like they take the best stats for each week. So if he has a bad week, well, you have other options. So I like
and
the
how
underdog.
high could the highs be?
Bingo.
Chris Bryant running hot in cores could be not to exaggerate, but the 6 home run week, right? We just see those kind of happen, and that's what moves the needles in those tournaments. Plus, we know outfield is very shallow, so like he kind of checks a few boxes. But no, like in the main event qualifiers I'm playing and stuff, I don't want.
Yeah, I feel you there. Let's go to the Los Angeles Dodgers. JD Martinez had a rough year last year. We know that, but Dodgers signed him. You got the storylines of his old hitting coach and everything, and I believe in some positivity goes a long way for some of these guys. A lot of things between the years are tough for some ball players. Not saying it's going to fix him, but you're also not paying a premium anymore for JD. You're paying $212 ADP for JD. Util only. It's a little bit of a hindrance. Not going to deny that, but again, past ADP 200 on a Dodgers team is not the same Dodgers of old. Let's clarify that as well, but should hit in the middle of that lineup pretty much every day. Are you interested in the JD bounce back?
Oh, 1,000%. This is one of the first kind of UT guys I've ever been interested in. I'm hoping it's a sign of growth, right? Because that was a lot of the things a lot of the things, and again, I know I'm like a smart guy or whatever, but coming into NFBC, I had my clock cleaned on all of the mistakes you can make, right? Not valuing catcher plate appearances, not maximizing my in-week lineup moves, right? All the mistakes that you can make, I made, and not drafting UT was one of them. And I think when the quality of hitter matches the price, sometimes you just need to something great that well, Bubba, how about this? I'm listening to your work when you're just drafting the stats, right?
Yep.
Worry less about the position and more about the stats.
And it's helped me a lot this year. Like if people look at my OC team, I tweeted out the other day, I literally took Tim Anderson and like Willie Adames back to back. Like I'm building stats instead of the other problems.
Okay, so why do I like JD Martinez in a nutshell? This one I don't remember you and Toby covering this specifically. JD Martinez. Okay, no UT. Okay, so Toby absolutely. I hope he's listening to this. He's one of my favorite analysts. He absolutely would have sniffed this out. I guarantee he already has. It just hasn't been on air. Okay, so
he likes JD Martinez.
Okay, and this is why, right? So 2021, JD Martinez had 53 barrels. He had 28 home runs. Last year, he had 49 barrels on a 12.4 barrel rate, the same exact barrel rate as last year. He converted a few less because of the appearances, right? But the home run total was 16.
Yep.
Everything else is in line for JD Martinez. He had a really low, although, it's something, again, that Toby kind of sparked for me, although it's not a pure stat. Not that I'm not saying he claims it is. When you use home run to barrel rates.
It's a great indicator, though.
So agreed. Remember, it's not necessarily measuring all barrel home runs. You could hit home runs that weren't barrels and vice versa, but it's going to point you to the outliers. And I think that's what matters. And I think that's what the point Toby was trying to make. Again, I'm not, I'd never try to misframe anybody.
Well, no, I want to clarify something real quick. We talked a lot off air about different stats, different metrics, this, that, and the other, how to utilize things. I think the biggest thing, like I know Toby's very, very analytically smart, and I think it's a great one he uses. Ryan does it with his Bloom boards. The whole idea of some of these statistics is to point you in the direction to maybe do some more research to see if a guy was, fact or fluke. Let's just put it that way. I don't know if there's any one stat that's 100%. Yep, that's the bottom line. Is because that stat said so. Like that's just, I don't think that's the way it works. But maybe there is. I'm skeptical of pretty much all of them. But I will utilize them at the same time.
Awesome.
Yeah. So back to what you were saying. I just want to clarify because I think the home run per barrel thing that Toby does is, I think, a great indicator on, was it a good or a fluky situation?
His was insanely low, 32.7%. Remember, it's not a conversion rate, but it's a home run to barrel rate, which again, I definitely has a spot. I mean, it is so incredibly low. You just the guys down there are just not what you'd expect. I'm looking at it right now. It's just ridiculous. Like, Yoshi Sasugo was down there with Bradley Zimmer and Lurie Garcia, Donovan Solano, like just really, really bad. You know what else? There's another one down there, and it's another outlier, and it's Jose Abreu. Abreu actually had, how about this? Jose Abreu had He had more barrels in 2022 than he did in 2021, and only had half the home runs, literally lopped in half. So be careful. Oh, he's starting to pull fly balls this spring. Oh,
Yep.
so yeah, you just gotta be careful with some of these things.
Yep, 100%.
You know I'm your fan because I could quote your work, man.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, I listen, dude. I listen.
You flatter me. You flatter me.
Yeah, I listen. I listen, man. I listen.
I appreciate it. Miguel Vargas has been a fun one. He messed up fingers, so he can't swing a bat forever. Now he's hitting again. He should be the starting everyday second baseman. That's what they want, which is great to hear. He's first base eligible on the NFBC, so that'll take about a week and a half before we can flip that to second base. But then you get that MICI eligibility, which is primo stuff right there, folks.
Yep.
So are you, besides just the eligibility kind of tempting you, are you a believer? Is Vargas the real deal? Because the hype train's pretty high on this kid, and the Dodgers are willing to roll with him right now, too. So there's got to be something to that as well.
I mean, his minor league track record is like erotic. It's ridiculous, but it's ridiculous. Over 1,800 plate appearances, batting .313, and just it's power and speed with average, like year after year, consistent 140 or better WRC plus. He does it all, but the little bit we saw last year, struggle, and that's okay. A lot of times, I have this in my work, I like that. Like, I like for a youngster to come up and struggle, because it's not because I want them to struggle. People are so stupid when they think that's what I mean. I want them to get accustomed to game speed, but then have an off season to prepare for that game speed, rather than going into preparation for an unknown, which again, I'm being partly subjective, but these are objective assertions, at least. It's easier to prepare for the known than the unknown. So that's what I generally like to see, especially with high talent guys. I'm not a big spring training guy, but I was kind of hoping it's been rough for Vargas. I think as of this morning, I think I had 33 plate appearances, batting .212 with a homer, no steals, and 14 strikeouts.
Yep.
They've been pretty clear about it being his job, but we've seen excellent prospects with all the track records and the belief in them fall on their face in small sets. Again, we're still wondering if Jared Kelenic is going to be good. We don't know.
Yep.
We don't know. So I don't want to knock Miguel Vargas, the ball player, like where I think people do that too. If you don't think he's going to immediately be good, you don't think he's going to be great. The guy could easily be a Hall of Famer. I'm not talking about that at all. There's that literally has nothing to do with this. It couldn't have less to do with this, right? This does not affect his career arc. But we're in the business of trying to predict what's going to happen right now. Doesn't look good, man. I've eliminated him from my underdog drafting. He's on that bubble of, if you've been following my best ball stuff, I think there's way too many available infielders late. You should be mixing and matching tons of everyday front of the lineup guys. But right now, I'll give you an example. A guy I'd rather have a Torkelson than a Vargas. And the reason, only because, again, just in the same vein of skill, prospect, disappointment, where in the cycle are we?
Yeah, that's true.
And I am chasing spring training for this. But,
and it goes back to your process of Torque got to play last year, got to get those bumps and bruises and age, and
people have given up on him.
Oh yeah, it's hilarious. Like I talked about him on my Tigers preview. I said, I get it. He's still young. There might still be hiccups, but to be able to walk into camp this year and be like, hey, it's your job, and Miggy's going to help you, compared to you got to work for a job last year. That's a whole different animal right out the gate. Like
23 years old, both of these guys, Torque and Vargas, only 23. Way too early to be making determinations. 100%. Okay, so, but that's what that said, it looks murky right now. And if you're doing like the draft champion thing still, you probably want to go like the Michael Bush route also, just in case.
Yeah, right? A little backup plan. That's a good.
That's a great backup plan, right? Yeah. First of all, the Dodgers are no. I was wondering. I was having trouble wondering why they seemed like they were a bit uninspiring as far as like off-season moves go. Yeah. And then when you start to dig into what's going on under there, they have pitching like crazy. I'm not a big prospect guy. But I wait for them to come and suck first. And once they frustrate the prospect guys and get dropped, that's what I swoop in. You know what I mean? So I think Vargas will be good, but I can't make any promises for this year. It could get rough. Yep.
ADP of 159 is rich. Let's go to James Outman.
It is.
It's very rich. Let's go to James Outman, who made the team. That got announced. He's going to be like the fourth outfielder, kind of, and it's just a matter of when he'll play. That's the biggest question, because the hit tool is pretty darn good. He did it in the minors. He's done it in the spring. His ADP is 398. in a 15 teamer, are you taking a chance on that? You given he's pretty much a platoon guy for the time being?
I think he's going to get a shot part-time to start. The Dodgers are very good at rotating. And I think, what, we're seeing that among the more analytically driven teams. I know I bashed the Yankees. Their youth development is poor. Their handling of the offense has been very good, I think. The way it's almost hard to track the Yankee offense. Everybody seems to play every day. The same for the Dodgers. Everyone seems to play every day. And that's when you know they're doing something right. So I think he's going to get woven in, and I think he's better than what they got right now. Again, I have to kind of do a little bit extra work. Thank the On the Wire guys for this, because I wouldn't have normally done this extra bit. Outman rocked the minors last year.
Yep.
294, 101, 106, 31, and 13 in 560 plate appearances. Bro, whoa, wowza.
Really
yeah, he's smoking it. That's everything. Now, where I worry about my own ability to understand these things is I don't understand the defensive capabilities, and I think a lot of times that is probably the answer. So it's like, when you hear the smarter guys, Eno is really in touch with the minor leagues. So understanding like who could play center field, or even like you mentioned, Gino, I am always following James Anderson.
Yeah.
That's where I'd want to go to find out. I don't mind. I don't always have the answer. I outsource to people. If we're talking pure hit tool, he looks awesome, and I think he's going to have every chance to play his way into an everyday role. So the Dodgers was right. That was another piece of it. I even know who that was. Like, I never really heard of him. He was part of the guys I've been drafted. I actually have a bunch of really late shares.
I have a ton of late Outman shares. A ton.
Yeah, I had like him. Yeah, I was like him. I like Capel. I have some, and then the Washington guys like Stone Garrett and Alex Cole. Yep. I have some of that. Like, hey man, you go for bad teams and sometimes good teams.
Bad teams produce fantasy players too.
Yeah, right. We get to hit too. It's our turn.
Yeah, exactly. A couple more on the Dodgers because good teams get more questions. Dustin May, this is one that I just have tough time figuring out the innings for him, because if I knew he was free to go, sure, talent's great. His ADP is 137.5 right now, though, so you're still paying a pretty good price tag for, to me, some question marks, but some very smart people are all aboard the May train. So how are you looking at Dustin May? Big John?
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. It skipped a bit there, but it's Dustin May.
Yeah. How are you looking at Dustin May this year?
Well, if there's really smart people on him, that is one mediocre smart person on him. I really like Dustin May, but this has come down to my major problem for this year, and I think it's everybody's issue is, you mentioned this, assigning innings pitched. The people I want to disagree with, right? So I do not want to disagree with you worried about his innings. If your argument is centered around the innings and you just don't see it, dude, I'm not going to push back. I don't know. That I don't know. The people I am disagreeing with are the people kind of, I don't know, degrading the per inning efficacy.
Okay.
I think he's ridiculously good. Like not just good. I know I'm going to shout out my boy Venancio. Me and Ryan V are in this the same way. He is ridiculous. I just think I don't throw that stuff away, throw it around often. I also do a lot of granular pitching work. You pop the hood, it's a race car. You know what I mean? So what I have for Dustin May, upside is comeback player of the year. You get enough innings to win something like that. We also saw, remember what Spencer Strider did at 130. Yeah. Something I've heard, again, you've been talking about. We have to lower the expectations because, right, at 220 innings, there's one guy that does that. And there's another 3 that go 200.
Yep.
The 180, 180 is the new 200, 150 is 180, now 130, which was not ever considered impactful, is. 130 is the new floor for what you can do damage in. And I think he could do that, right? Yep. So I think he's one of those guys. I think the K rate in 2022, people are looking at, it's just, that's not where you want to be looking. Yeah. All the under the hood stuff's fantastic. And he was one of those people I mentioned to you off air in the legit rarefied air of one of the single best fastballs in the entire league, right? So we're talking about, this list is Verlander, DeGrom, McClanahan, Hunter Greene, I think it's Michael Kopech, and then, Dustin May with like Josiah Gray snuck on there. That's another conversation for another day. But 13.4 V move, 10.2 horizontal. So he's able to keep it flat with a ton of arm side run. And again, this is kind of what bothered me is people said, well, he managed a 31% whiff rate on the four seamer, and that's somehow unsustainable. See, that's where I push back because no.
Yeah.
You give me those fastball diagnostics, and it's 98 miles an hour, and he works it up in the zone. No, that is no. That if there's a fastball that carries a 31 whiff, that's it. You know what I mean? Like that, that's it. You know, it's funny because you would think the velo people would have been onto it because it's got velo, but I've heard that quoted a few times that they're citing the K rate from 22, not like the underpinning stuff. So I think May is like for him, but it's the innings, and I feel like. I don't know. The Dodgers have been good at keeping Kershaw out there. I don't know if they're going to do some 6-day stuff. I don't know the answer to that. Like I said, if you're worried about innings, you probably should be.
Yeah,
but I'm not worried about. Yeah, I'm not worried about impact. He's absolutely on my best ball rosters because he's the kind of guy. If he goes out and a real big 2-start week is as good as anybody because there aren't that many guys that can go 6 or more with 10 Ks or more, and really, really move the needle. So I think where he's going, he's one of those big time impact guys. But if he goes 40 innings, I'm like,
yeah, no, I agree with that. I think the talent's ceiling, but I'm just my concerns are a little different. Let's talk about the closers real quick for the Dodgers. As of late, David Roberts said it looks like it's between Hudson and Gratterall. Everyone loves Evan Phillips. That one didn't get mentioned by Dave Roberts, but let me be clear: as a Giants fan, I have no problem talking down to Dave Roberts, and his word only goes so far. Let me throw that one to you. He knows how to move rotations around, batting orders around, bullpens around. So I'm still not saying Phillips won't get his. That's all I'm trying to say here.
Yeah.
But he's made a statement. So how are you approaching this? Because it's a team that's going to win a lot of ball games. You're going to want some of this if you can find it the right way.
Well, I'm kicking myself in the arse at least partially, and this is another reason why I'd like to secure. I like to draft players like Raisel Iglesias to make sure that I secure those saves, Bubba. Or last year drafting guys like Will Smith, So then really, it's a very difficult game that we play trying to secure saves. I thought Phillips had the best stuff, and I thought he checked the most boxes. I also thought the Dodgers fit that mold of teams that go to a single player.
Yep.
So my hope was we're talking about RP1. And maybe not even like an RP1, but maybe like one of the RP1s, like top 3 RP. But of course, I said, well, I got like Phillips and Vesia, and those happen to be the 2 names that he didn't mention. So maybe I'm on the outside looking in right now. I'm not going to be adding those names. Although, if that statement, let's say, knocked Phillips back to where he's available in the 29th or 30th in one of my qualifiers, I'm in, I still think I would take a stab at it because I think the potential is still there. And again, if he doesn't get it, you could move on pretty easily.
Yep. I don't blame you there. I think there's still some legs to be had in that situation.
Yeah.
Some legs that might not be had in the situation, the Miami Marlins. Let's talk about them for a few minutes here. A couple outfielders that disappointed last year. Jorge Soler, Avisel Garcia. You're getting a discount now. Soler 296, Garcia 331. I think we kind of know who these guys are. I think we can both kind of agree they might be a little better than they were last year. They're not ceiling plays by any means, but there might be something there. Maybe I'm totally wrong. Are you buying into a potential Soler or Avisel Garcia bounce back situation that makes them worth these draft prices?
I mean, if you get stuck without power, I think Soler is one of the better late sources, but the hit tool is so flawed, and they have other players kind of challenging for that spot. They might not have a ton of patience with him, right? You also, it's a dead zero in steals, which can be a bit of a killer. There's also a batting average floor that you might not want to deal with. There's also a potential, which we've seen for 30% K rates combined with, 80% or lower in zone contact. It's really, really tough. The plus side is that the power profile for Soler is like, it's godlike, right? Especially me, if I'm going to be out here touting pull power, 50% pull, 40% hard hit rate. And again, where I think the microscope comes out, you often hear the 12% barrel, which again is very good. But he has a 10% blast rate. So not everyone is doing that, where I like to narrow the lens of the barrel to the blast. And it really gives you an idea of there are some hitters, Bubba, that have a lot of barrels that are not blast. That kind of they snuck into the barrel bin a little bit. And remember, we've had a change in the ball. And we've also not only had a change in the ball, we've seen a degradation in production, right? So we've seen production on barrels physically drop. And when I started looking at like Anderson's board with the park from his park data stuff, dude, there are 5 different parks last year that had a sub 40% home run to barrel rate.
Wow.
That's awful. Think about that. It's awful. So me, like very much in depth in the weeds with handicapping, DFS and stuff, player props. All of a sudden I was out here chasing barrels. It matters where they happen a lot more than I thought.
Bingo.
You know, so like again, this again is a key to why Derek Carty's bat stuff has been so impactful on the offensive end, because he stresses environment, which again you should. Yeah. But the thing to chasing barrels, they're not all created equally.
Bingo.
So I like to use Blast because now Blast are going out. Like Blast have 60, 70, 80% or better home run rate. They're almost always going out. They have, I think, like a 3,300 slug. You know what I mean? So like that's what you're looking for, right? That's what you're looking for. And so he doesn't just barrel it; he blasts it. Yeah. So the power for Soler is legit. I want to make sure I got that out there because I know he gets killed for the floor tool. You also mentioned I like Avi Garcia, but unfortunately, I don't know if it's maybe it's me. I doubt it's me. Someone else probably liked him more popular than me, and now he's getting a little bit expensive.
Yeah,
like I don't want Garcia as my 4th outfielder in NFBC. I wanted him as my UT or even a reserve player. And he's, people are seeing. Yeah, we have 2 very productive seasons from him, and not so long ago. 2021, he was he outfielder? I think I have 25 or 26. He went 262, 68, 86, 29, and 8. Dude, that's a really good season.
Very good season.
He's not a bad player. Yeah, he was also very vocal about being out of shape and unprepared. Which again, on one hand, it's very easy. Oh, he's a professional ball player. You're right. You're not wrong. But what about like the human side of the guy taking? I dove into this for the Athletic. It's paywalled, so I like to do a little bit more. Dude, extensive articles in the Miami Herald. Legit. Legit sports page stuff, not like fluff about him and following him around. In-depth interviews that he was like, I really disappointed myself and everybody else.
Yep.
In not so many words, like I kind of got the bag. He wasn't focused. And then he said he got behind the routine. And now once you're behind a routine for a lot of players, it spins out of control.
It does.
You and Ryan actually closed out your show again. I'm listening. Close out to your show about doing preparation now, because once the season starts, it can get away from you because everything's happening so fast. And that's what it sounds like happened to him, that he didn't spend enough time.
He started pressing.
Yeah, right. He just wasn't, and he was out of shape, and he didn't feel good, and that led to injury. So he, not through best shape of his life, but he corrected that. Okay, so I don't think he's going to be good because he lost some weight. No, but he is now saying he's back on the track that he had been on, that put him in those good spots. I think he's a really good candidate. Again, just to do that, right, to hit 25, maybe steal another 8 to 10, maybe hit 265. All of a sudden, shoot, man. He's a very productive fantasy asset. So if I had to choose, it'd be Garcia because I think it's a bit more balanced. I think he's really talented. I don't think we kind of speak of Garcia.
He's very good.
Yeah, and there's some elite. I saw some elite stuff. Oh yeah, 116.8 max EV last year, right? So even in the garbage kind of season, that's elite. 117 is top of the board. So
he's still hitting the ball. That's the thing. He's not doing it consistently.
Right.
Yeah, so I'm with you. Like I love Abby. I'm looking for Abby quite a bit over Soler, unless you need the power. That's a big caveat. If you're leak on power, Soler does fit the molds for sure. I'm going to ask you, because I ask pretty much anybody when we start talking Marlins. Are you a believer in Sandy Alcantara doing it again? Because I'll caveat this one. I think he's an amazing pitcher. I'm never going to doubt that. He has to have the innings or he's not the ADP he deserves. That's the bottom line for me. So that's what makes it tough. Are you in on Sandy Alcantara?
No, I have been going with the higher impact per inning guys.
Yep. Okay.
Again, worried that even one IL stint, everything knocks down when it comes down.
All it takes is going 6 innings instead of 7 innings. Still great starts, but that changes everything on the course of a season.
Yes. Yeah. So that said, I still think he's going to lead the league in innings pitched because of his style.
Yeah.
Although I think, and this is one of the things we don't know how the whole shift thing will work. Remember, okay, so he's awesome, right? Like, let's not. I think we do that too much too. That because the strikeout number isn't gaudy, that somehow he can't generate swings and misses, and like that's not true, right? So he had a 12.2 swing strike, but he had a 38.0 swing, so he can generate swings and misses. The changeup and the slider. This is Sandy Alcantara also have a 31% whiff rate. Whereas going with the shift is one, we may just see pitchers straight up come out of the box, choosing whiff inducing pitches over ground ball inducing pitches because they don't have the crutch of the shift. Again, it's not conspiracy theory. There are fewer humans with leather gloves standing over there, and that's why I'm doing it, right? There's a reason that the shift is a rule because it works. So there's a little bit, it's funny. I understand we don't want to like overreact, but we absolutely should react because there's a reason there's a reason they did it. Then there's a reason that they changed it and disallowed it because it was so impactful. But what we should be doing is, oh man, this guy is a contact guy and that's going to hurt him. We don't know that. Like, I'm looking at you, Framber Valdez. We just might see more of, in Framber's case, more of the cutter in, and in Sandy's case, more of the off-speed changer slider combo.
Yeah.
Dude, 31% whiff rate on a majority of your pitches. It's fine. That's a strike. That's a strikeout. That's strikeout stuff.
Yeah.
And what I mean is, I think if let's say he doesn't change his method and it leads to balls squeaking through, I think you're going to see then an adjustment, right? Yeah. So I think Sandy's going to be fine. I think he's excellent. He's one of the best pitchers in the league. Yeah. But the way things are constituted, dude, that's a max amount of IP. Yeah. I don't even know. I'm not very good with historical stuff. I'm always focused on like, when can I make money right now? But he outpaced the entire league by 23 innings or something.
It wasn't close. It wasn't close.
That's crazy. Come on. That's absolutely crazy.
That's like 4 starts for some guys.
Yeah. And hold on to that note, I like money starts, right? Because I hate kind of quality starts. So if anyone's unfamiliar, long story short,
it's a phenomenal stat. I've had John on the show before talking about it. It should be established somewhere.
Right. So money start is 7 innings minimum, 2 earned runs maximum. Right. To me, like, that's good. Right?
Yeah, you're lined up for a dub.
All right. So, dude, see, I mean, again, sometimes I run stats and then I go back. I'm like, oh wait, this is broken. So Alcantara had 32 games started, one more than, Bieber, let's say one less than Cole. He had 24 quality starts. 20 of those were money starts. That's so 62.5% of the times he went out. He went 7-2. So you got to keep that in mind when you're like, I don't know about the strikeout stuff. Because if the method he has still works, then he's going to go out and give you 7 every time. So like, it's just he's so good, man. But it's just crazy. I think I ding him in 5x5, but I don't knock him down in head to head because that extra inning, that extra
elite, Yeah.
Those the compiled innings with the quality start plus win combinations are tremendous, right? So I actually like him more than in H than 5x5.
And it's so bad about the Marlins. You mentioned 20 money starts. He only had 14 wins. So 6 of those money starts went to waste, essentially. I'm just speculating. I haven't dug into the games, but yeah, crazy. You're on mute.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. Yeah, can you imagine leaving 6 of those on the table? People get, and it's funny nuts. When fantasy players get mad, because we see this all the time, especially head to head, because everything's under the microscope. That when a player loses a quality start, they get upset. Oh, I can't believe it. I got the QS, didn't get the win. But like, come on, 6-3 is not a lock.
No.
7-2 should be a damn lock, man. Because 7-2 is when you get the optimal bullpen assignment, hopefully.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
God, well, that's brutal. That is brutal. Oh, that's brutal.
Rough.
Wins are the worst, man.
Yeah. Last Miami Marlins question I got for today. They got 3 young guns. 2 of them are likely to start the year in the rotation. Braxton Garrett will get his. I'm very confident of that. But you got Trevor Rogers, Edward Cabrera, Braxton Garrett. Currently, you have Rogers at 208.75. You have Cabrera 203.75. And Braxton Garrett's not even drafted right now, which is interesting to me. Out of those 3, if we were to have this conversation in November 1st, per se, who do you think has the best season fantasy-wise?
All right, get your pens and pads. I wrote down, I don't know. That's exactly what I wrote down. I've been going with To be honest, I've been going with all of them because I think they all represent per inning impact with opportunity at a good cost. They all have some worries for me. I actually think Cabrera is probably the best case to come out, dominate, and stick. I think he might have the best stuff because we've seen the downside for Rogers. I'm more worried about Cabrera going innings, right? So that's where the mix comes in. I think Rogers is the best candidate to give us 30 starts. I think Cabrera is the best candidate to get you 13K per 9. And I think Braxton Garrett is one of my favorite 6 starting pitchers. Again, something you talk about is one of the best places to find value on the draft board is like every single 6 starter is going to get 11 or 12 starts probably. Yep. So I like all of them. I like them all in combination. And I'll be honest, Bubba, if I end up with one of the first 2, those are the teams that I move up Garrett because I worry about them. Yep. I think that you pair them. I'm looking at a draft champions right now. I have all 3 of them actually.
It's a great point. Like
so I like them all. I think Cabrera for the upside. Yeah, it makes sense. It makes sense. Man, there's a lot of pitching people are worried about the downside plus the wins. So I think they are all a really good spot to find some impact. I'd much rather have any of these guys than like the vanilla pitchers going there, right? When you hit that point in the draft, sometimes just like boring stuff. I don't really want the boring stuff.
Yep. I'm with you. 100%.
In fab leagues, I should say. If I could replace, give me some excitement. Give me a chance at some excitement. Yeah.
Yeah. Go for the ceilings if you can. Otherwise, you drop them. Very simple game. Milwaukee Brewers here. I'm a big Brewers fan. Fantasy-wise, is for value, but we'll keep it simple on this show. There's a couple of like rookies, young players that they have coming up this year. Garrett Mitchell in the outfield, Bryce Terang in the infield. I've heard mixed reviews on many of them, but the talent's there, especially speed-wise from both of them. Are you interested in either for fantasy?
You know, I really liked Mitchell for a minute when Taylor went down, right? Tyrone Taylor went down. Yep. So for a minute, there was that buying opportunity of like, again, I'm very open about it. I don't know about these guys before they come up, really. I don't really follow them. So I dig and I go, whoa, he's at the big Fangraphs page. I'm like, wow, awesome. But then the price kind of went to where he started going next to outfielders I'd rather kind of have because I think they're more cemented and we don't really know. The Brewers can be a bit unpredictable. I've stepped on the Taylor rake a few times, so I'm not saying he's locked in. I don't know about Mitchell's opportunities when he comes back. Again, he looks like he's been very good. He's got 3 home runs in spring, although I think they were all before he dinged up also. I'd probably be more into Terang because the IDP is so late. Yeah. If he gets a whack, he should be impactful, but I think he's blocked right now. And again, that's another one is, right, so he kind of fits in the Vaughn Grissom kind of in. Yeah, it's a high upside pick that's really blocked to start. They're very difficult to draft at NFBC. So I think at NFBC, the answer is probably nay right now. Yeah. The one I'm worried about burning me is probably Mitchell.
Yeah, there's so many more outfield options in that system that if he struggles, there's outs where I like Terang quite a bit. I just need him to play. The other Brewer question I have for you is Freddie Peralta. Like last draft season, he was so heralded and loved all over fantasy worlds. Gets an injury. We know how the story goes. His ADP is 139 this year, and the talent is still pretty darn elite in my mind. I just don't know. Like, we've seen the Brewers' baby pitchers. We've also seen them go loose. So how are you approaching Freddie Peralta? Because right now I don't think I have any shares of Freddie Peralta.
Yeah, he's right next to Dustin May, and it's probably the very same kind of analysis.
That's a very, it makes a lot of sense.
Roof, like just through the roof. In my rankings, I have them right next to each other, and they're in a tier of like incredibly high upside, breaking the per inning scale, and then in the parentheses says, don't draft more than one of these guys on a single team. So if I went May on team 1, I want to go Peralta on team 2. You nailed the workload stuff. That was the hardest thing to predict. We just don't know. The Brewers sometimes have their guys go out and throw like 3 1/3. And you're like, what? Peralta in particular, just when they were like starting him, if you look at those game logs, they're in between runs of him going 5 1/3, 5 2/3. He goes 2 2/3. And I don't know if he doesn't look crisp those days. Maybe they were picking up something on the gun or movement. I don't know. But I do know that when he's healthy, and they're saying he's healthy right now, is excellent. Last year, 270 xERA with a 1.04 whip, 569 OPS, 81 zone contact. Just awesome. The one thing I'd caution people of, again, it's beating the dead horse a bit, but what you need the microscope for. I've heard people worry about the fly ball rate. He's one of those guys. I'm not worried about the fly ball rate. 42% fly ball, yes. But if you're using Fangraphs, GB plus LD plus FB, right? equal 100. Infield flies are not calculated in this. You need to look at infield fly rate if you're going to quote fly ball rate, because the 42%, his 14% infield fly is, as among the highest it goes. Anything over 12 is extremely high for a pitcher to force pop-ups. So I'm not too worried about the elevation basket. I think Peralta's filthy. So yeah, he's one of my favorite kind of per inning guys. My beef though is it's harder for me to get to him because now that Reed Detmers is moving up into that neighborhood, that's like my boy. Like I was on Detmers last year.
Neck and neck on draft boards.
I'm Detmers, man. I'm a Detmers guy. Like that's my dude. I'm going down him. I kept him in my home league, like over guys that I probably shouldn't have. Like that's my boy. I'm going with him.
I like it. I like it a lot. New York Mets, I have one question. They're a pretty loaded team where I think most of the answers are already kind of in the bag when it comes to the Mets. But Kodai Senga, I just want to get your thoughts on this. We know the talent's pretty dang good. That's pretty obvious. He's got an arsenal. There's questions on how many innings he'll pitch this year. I think if he's good, he's going to keep pitching. That seems simple, boring analysis. But his ADP's at 163. Are you interested in Kodai Senga this year?
No, and I don't know. Maybe I need to see it first. The imports have been so volatile, and I don't think the discount is there. Right, he's still going around some pretty kind of viable pitchers, right next to Singer, who I'm not huge on, but I do like Brady Singer. Patrick Sandoval, the same. I also like him. Alex Cobb, who I liked before he started on the injured list. And then Edward Cabrera is right there. Trevor Rogers, Clark Schmidt, Jameson Taillon. So even if I am shopping pitching there, I haven't gone the route with Senga because I'm not sure what I'm getting. And those are, I mentioned being like cheap with picks, and really wanted to get something out of everybody. It's kind of scary not knowing. You're passing on, right? To pass on Sandoval is, look what he did for you last year. That's a legit pick. You're going to have to replace it. It's very difficult.
Yep, I'm with you. I have zero Kodai. I'm just kind of nervous and a lot of question marks for that ADP for my love.
The finger too. I don't know. Maybe that's a little in the weeds. He has to throw the fork with a bigger ball, and it already messed up his finger a little bit.
Oh, Jesus.
Right? His whole thing is the fork ball, and you have to split.
Yeah.
And the ball is a different size here than it is there. So which is why they had him come here and work with it. But now look, working with it in 2 months, he had finger numbness and stuff like that.
That's not good. Good point.
But I don't want to say it's like abandoned ship. This is a problem, and it's going to continue. But
the thing is, when you're facing that kind of ADP, you need to find everything in it, and
it worries me. It does. It worries me. That's my concern. Again, I can see that kind of burning me, right? Because the other part of us not knowing what he's about, his hitters have never seen him, and he could confuse the hell out of him.
Yeah, no, we'll see what happens. Philadelphia Phillies was a gloomy day for me on a Thursday. Rhys Hoskins, torn ACL, out for the season. Pour one out for Reese's Pieces. So how are you approaching? I mentioned it with Bloomfield on Thursday. The Phillies actually have a lot of angles they could potentially go to here. I think the easiest, laziest one is, I say lazy because it's easy, is Derek Hall playing first base. But there's a lot of other alternatives. Like I said, you can get Voit, you can get Gurriel. You can move Schwarber or Castellanos to first. You can move Baum to first. Like there's a lot of moving pieces technically in Philadelphia. If you're going into a draft coming up here the next couple of days or early next week, how are you approaching the Philadelphia Phillies first base position?
I mean, I'm not sure exactly what they think about Hall defensively at first.
Yep. I've heard mixed
I think
reviews.
you nailed it. I think the easiest solution is a cheap Luke Voit, who's the dollar store version of Rhys Hoskins. We've even seen Voit go on tears where he's, of 1v1, where he's a top 10 first baseman from a fantasy perspective. He's be good enough at first. I saw him up close for the Yankees. He never really killed you. He was not great, but he never really killed you. And you knew there was always a shot in him going long. So that's an easy answer. If Hall doesn't just automatically kind of fill in, if I thought he automatically filled in, maybe I'd go that route. It's a little early in the season. Though, right, it's not like September and you can patchwork it. You didn't get a single plate appearance from a first baseman you were hoping was going to be an all-star for you. Yep. So I would probably look to add and bring in the Hall, and then maybe they make like a natural platoon so you don't have to feel like you need to force a guy like Voit out there all the time. And if they do make it out, you could have a really good, really well-hitting split there from two sides.
Definitely. Hall's ADP is around 364. Voigt has not been drafted over the last few days. So
Yeah,
if you
he's
just
not
want to
drafted yet.
speculate as a last rounder just to see what's up, because I foresee something happening there. I think Friday he can decide if he's staying with Milwaukee or not based on his contract. So
Okay.
be prepared for that one. Bryson Stott, Alec Boehm, those are two young ball players. Stott a little younger, at least experienced wise in the bigs. A lot of expectations for both. Are you buying into the next step for these guys? Because like Boehm's an average guy. The power has not developed, even though if you want to look at quality of contact metrics, pretty darn good ball player. Where Stott's kind of been all over the board. Like he goes hot streaks, cold streaks, all over the place. So what are you thinking of those two this year?
I actually really like Bryson Stott for an MI. With Gavin Lux being down, Stott's been my last kind of bastion there. Granted, I'd rather not go there because I think we were hoping for a bit, right? There's a little bit of hope going on, but he's also very young. We saw him come on in the second half. The second half was very strong for Stott. 246 second half plate appearances. He bat 276, 31, 23, 4, and 9. And that's not even half a season. That would be more than enough to get it done for you from the MI spot. And you have to add whatever it is, I forget the math, 30 plate appearances for both of them now, because even if you brought, maybe if it's whole every day, I guess it's possible he hits in front of Stott. Boehm is, top of the lineup guy. Yep. And not to go too nuts with spring training stuff, but they were talking about this adjustment being on the horizon, that him working on the lift, because you nailed it. He takes such a bad, sometimes these guys, just because they don't produce in fantasy, they get these raps as like not being good hitters.
Yeah.
He's a good hitter at 290 XBA last year. That's ridiculously good, man. That's like top of the board. He's really, really good. 87 Zcon, sub 10% swing strike rate, 43% hard hit rate on Savant, right? Because he hits it hard. He's not lifting it. He also just didn't convert his barrels. He had 33 barrels. He had 13 home runs. Maybe that should have been closer to 18, and we're not talking about a disappointing.
Everyone's in love with him now.
So I like Boehm. I actually think we might be seeing the adjustment. He's playing like a man possessed in spring training right now.
Yep.
But it's lift. And if I was listening to the broadcast, which again I know comes with there's possible some pain on the other end of that because these broadcasters are really into it, and I get it. But when you're hearing, in football, we hear referred to as the drum beat. Mm-hmm. The drum beat's been going on for a while now. Yep. That Boehm had the contact, the power is going to come. Boehm had the contact, added the hard hit ability, now just needed to lift. And then they were saying in the offseason they believe the lift is there. He shows up in spring training, he's hitting ding-dong. Did he say 4 home runs already?
Something like that, yeah.
He has 4 home runs and 4 he has 4 home runs and 4 doubles. Yep. So man, where he's going at a position I'm not sure. I know these people are smarter than me. They're better. Even if they're smarter than me, that's a cop out. They're better at me. They're better than I am at fantasy baseball. That's what I'm confident. People much better than me at fantasy baseball have been out there pushing back that third base is not that shallow. Whatever. You and I are doing different calculations then. I think it's shallow. I think a lot of the third basemen at the end have not only do they have 0 floors, right? Floors of 0, I should say. The replacement rate is near 0. So if you miss on that pick, you're in a lot of trouble because now you're trying to find a league average guy where some people have Austin Riley at third base. You have nothing. You're going to hope what Spencer Steer is. He might be good, but you don't know that. And now if you're going to be looking at what David Villar, you're recycling the Giants third baseman.
Gets rough.
I don't like the position.
No.
The fantasy season started with third base super shallow. Then we saw, I'm not even trying to call people, I just forget who it was. Yeah. Somebody said by SGP, it's not.
Yeah.
And which I get. And then you're going to have people quote it, which they should because it's proven. But I don't see it. I know if my guys are gone, I'm like, oh.
Yep, I'm with you. That's why I have tiers or whatever you want to call them. I have my cliffs. I want a guy before this one where it drops off type situation.
Yeah, dude, I'm drafting Brian Hayes. That's how desperate I am.
Yeah, and that hurts. That's definitely the cliff range. If you
how about this? I have one for you. Are you buying the spring training bounce back for a Josh Young? Because now, if you believe in that, the people that believe in Young are really happy right now because he's nobody wants him at all. He's an easy third baseman. He came with some shine too, but
for me, there's a lot of if people watch the YouTube video, the face he just made, there's a lot of that. Yes. Yeah. I'm just gonna be I like Josh Young. I'm going to say that much. Do I have a lot of shares? No. If I do, he's my backup third baseman / corner infielder. He's not my starter. Let's put it that way. I am not going to battle with him as my only third baseman on my roster. Not yet. And I could backfire because I believe in the power. I think the power is legit. I'm really concerned with the batting average skills and those situations. But yeah, I'm not quite there as a yeah, let's just not play the position and draft Josh Young at like 210. I'm not in that mode
Right.
right now. So.
His minor league career is so good.
Yeah, he's a beast in the minors. Like if it could ever translate like 80% of that, he'd be
And
worth
it wasn't, and
210.
he wasn't the strikeout machine that he was up here either. And that's the
Yeah.
stuff I'm like, wait, so we're just kind of throwing, like, that's what it is. We're just kind of defining him. He's had whatever, for 100 plate appearances in the major leagues. He struck out 38% of the time, and he's not any good. I don't know if people have seen this. Like, it's, man, it's like when the plate appearances are kind of numbers that we can digest, right? So he had 675 plate appearances, which is like a season, right?
Yep.
He bat 311, 96 runs, 118 ribbies, 30 home runs, 7 steals, 43 doubles, 21% K rate. I mean, he was
Pretty darn
an
good.
absolute stud, dude, stud. You know, so like, again, I don't know when this stuff's going to happen, but I know he's checking a lot of the boxes that I'm into. Like, I'm not a talent evaluator, but also I know that stuff doesn't happen by accident, and I also know the fantasy community is just way too quick to overreact and discard these guys, which is actually kind of funny because we overreact to pump them up, and then we overreact to get rid of them, right? You know what I'm saying? There's
And
very little commitment.
And that's when I love to jump in.
Yeah,
Give me
me
those
too.
guys you're throwing away. I'll
Yeah,
take
me
your
too. I
trash.
will never ever forget when he came up. We mentioned Michael Fulmer before. His first year up with the Tigers, he stunk out of the box. And I remember somebody in my home league spent a premier pick on him, looking for this prospect or whatever. And I picked him up. After that, he ended up winning Rookie of the Year because he was so good down the stretch. He pitched the whole year, which is part of
He's
it.
a stud. He's a
But
stud.
yeah, you gotta just be, if you believe in it, you gotta be patient. I'm not saying draft these guys and run them out there no matter what. You gotta, that's part of what comes in the calculus, you know. So if you're gonna draft them, be willing to be patient. That's the part that kills me. You spent the pick, you didn't have the patience, and you dropped them. You got all the shitty stats, you didn't get any of the good stats, and now you're killing yourself because you lost. That's the worst position to be in.
That's the worst spot to be in. 100%. Been there, done that. So no bueno.
Right.
Last Phillies question I got for you. The closing situation. It's a mess. And if you think you got it figured out, kudos. But, I got Sir Anthony, you got Alvarado, you got Kimbrel. They traded for Gregory Soto. Most are saying it's Sir Anthony for the most part, but it's going to be a lot of mix and match as well. Like he's probably their best high leverage dude, him and Alvarado, depending on if it's righty or lefty. So if you are on draft day, how are you approaching the Phillies?
No, hard fade, man. This is an easy one. There are some teams you just leave alone. They mix and match too much. They don't have a quality guy that they can believe in. It's going to be too much. How many people have been chasing the Phillies bullpen? No, thank you.
Yep, with you. Let's go to the Pittsburgh Pirates. O'Neal Cruz, ADP of 69. Like there's a ceiling for Cruz. We also know there's a floor for Cruz. I also think he's young, and we saw some points in the right direction at times. So it's an interesting, I guess, we do DFS GPP type play with O'Neal Cruz. How are you looking at him for fantasy season long wise, though?
Man, I wish he was going a little bit later.
Yeah.
Just a little bit later, because I understand, and that's what people are kind of. I know people. Okay, I got to put it. I'm not really drafting him, and so I guess that means I don't like him as much as like I'm about to see. But at ADP 69, I have trouble getting there and end up with like Adames next. So it's like I'm not prioritizing shortstops because O'Neal Cruz, another guy we've now assigned him. He's a bad hitter. He's a strikeout guy with a no average. 1,700 minor league plate appearances. He's a career 275 hitter. Like, are we sure? So I think that's the part I want to believe in is the track record and like God, I used the word erotic before. If anyone has an erotic power profile, 44 pull, 38 hard hit. He had a 419 expected wOBA on contact, 15.5 barrel, 10% blast. I mean, just awesome. And I think, man, sky is the limit. His pace is through the roof. I'm not ready to. I would draft him. I want him to just get a little bit past ADP. So I'm not crossing him off, but I think there are safer picks.
Yeah, I'm so torn on him because, like you said, erotic profile is a great one to use. It is. It could do. It's not safe for work. Let's put it that way. And
Right.
it could be tricky, but at the same time, it could be not safe for both reasons.
Hold on. How about this? This comes right off my notes. So yeah, I know the batting average is kind of whack, but so far, this is his career major league pace. His career 600 pace, when I say pace. 235, which is not any good, but 77, 92, 29, and 16. Dude, that's a needle mover. Even with the low batting average, that batting average is not bad enough to hurt you in these days. You need other good batting average guys.
Yep,
But
that's the thing.
My thing is, if what we've seen is kind of what we're getting, which I don't believe, because he's freakishly talented, he's still going to be good. So yeah, you could draft him. Is what sometimes I'm hard on the guys that I think have flawed profiles, and I'm like, I don't want that. This is a player that I would draft.
Yeah, I'm with you there. Pitching wise for Pittsburgh, like again, the team's suspect, but there's some intriguing arms. I'm going to say that's the way I'm going to phrase it. You have Mitch Keller, who for the umpteenth time is drawing us back in to probably let us down. ADP of 267. You got JT Brubaker at 394, essentially free, and we saw some good moments last year from JT. Also saw some down. And then you got Roansy Contreras at 287, and the profile, the talent is really good. The walks can be an issue at times with Roansy. Out of these three guys, of any of them are interest for you on draft day?
They all were at one point, and now I just can't get there. And I think I'm blaming the organization right now because the Pirates stink. But I think part of why the Pirates stink is because they've been unable to develop pitching talent. And again, whatever, this may keep me from ever getting hired in Pittsburgh, but I just see the under the hood stuff, and they don't anything out of it, So Rowansy's a good example of a guy we heard all this about, the prospect, the shine, blah, blah, blah. He comes up and, problem number one, the fastball is not good. So he's throwing it too much, nearly 50% of the time, to a 555 X slug. Dude, you can't give up a 555 X slug in half your pitches, and they don't change anything, right? So that's part of from the organization. They don't throttle pitches. You don't see them featuring the good stuff. You don't see them making adjustments. So that's why I'm off. How many times do I have to get tricked by Keller? Dude, literally the same time last year, you could have been asking me the same question. Mitch Keller just had a 98-mile-an-hour hype session on Twitter. What are you doing about it? And I was drafting him because I'm a freaking idiot, yo. I'm a freaking idiot. I kept falling for it. And it's whatever it is. This time, if he beats me, he beats me. I have guys that I like going late that I'm going to go to battle with over him. Yep. And I think that's just what it is. And again, you said it before. I don't want to appeal to authority, but there are ridiculously smart people, who are into Mitch Keller. And that man, he's going around. Who's going around? He's going around. He's going right next to David Peterson. He's going next to my boy Kyle Bradish. He's going next to Garrett Whitlock and Noah Syndergaard, Michael Kopech. I'd just rather go that route.
Yep.
I think
it's an interesting range to say the least. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
Let's go to the San Diego Padres as we start rounding third here. Nelson Cruz, he's not even being drafted right now. We got the $1 million deal. You never know with Will Nelly. You got Matt Carpenter, who's got an ADP of 414. The Yankee short porch he loved. San Diego Petco, a little different. Just going to throw that out there. Are either one of these late game targets for you?
No, because I think they're built to complement each other.
Yeah, that's the way.
Which I think is weird. You don't see too many, which feels like the team is wasting a roster spot. These guys can't play the field, whatever. So until one of them goes down, the answer is no. Maybe it's to see which of the two survives. Maybe one gets DFA'd or something. Well, again, I don't know the answer, but until that, I don't think there's enough opportunity there. If you're playing a draft champion style league, you got to circle Matt Carpenter, because if he's going to get 3 or 4 matchups against righties in a row, he could play that Monday through Thursday set and be like a Jake Fraley, right? You want to another one of those things, getting into NFBC, thinking as when in Rome, do as the Romans do, and that's what the Romans are doing in NFBC, is maximizing plate appearances. G-Man Choi, guys like that who have very strong 4-game splits that you might not want to start for a week. So, but other than that, probably no. I don't think there's enough opportunities.
That's fair. The other question with the Padres here, Nick Martinez and Seth Lugo speculated to be the 5th, maybe 6th starters on these teams. Lugo's got the inside track, it looks like, to getting the first pump at this. Martinez ADP around 348, Lugo at 433. Any of these two of interest for you?
No, it's an A for me. It's a no for me, dog. Because again, I just look for guys to move the needle a little bit more. I think Lugo can be impactful on a permanent basis. He maxed out at 30 pitches last year. How much are we going to get from him?
That's why I'm surprised they're putting him in the rotation. I'm just wrapping my.
Are they going to stretch him out? Is he opening?
Yeah.
You can't draft him knowing that. He did not throw more than 30 pitches in a single game. So at the very least, we should get a month to see him ramp up to 5. Like, so what, by the beginning of May, you're lucky if he's 5 and dive? No thanks. Yeah. And Nick Martinez is just a guy for me. He's 32 years old, career 6.3% K- walk.
Yep.
Blah. Just blah.
That ain't gonna cut it.
No, just blah. Yeah, you can get a little more. You get a little more exciting.
Yep, I'm with you. Let's go to the San Francisco Giants because we have to here. It's going to be an interesting year, fantasy-wise. Tricky is the nice way I'm going to put it. Any late targets for you? I know you like Blake Sable, and I like him a lot too, but that's probably more a DC play than a season-long play. We'll see. How are you? Do you have anybody late? Like Yastrzemski's going late. There's a lot of guys going late for the Giants.
You could ask me if I liked any Giants early. I'd probably give you the same answer. I mean, unfortunately, I know it's your squad. No, and, you know me, so personal because I move like the wind. I bet against the Yankees all the time. There's no personal stuff here. The Giants that I was so enamored with a couple of years ago, analytically driven, all this they use different types of pitch machine to throw offbeat stuff. I'm like, wow, this is a really cool idea. And then we saw the production of this very platoon heavy, very wonky. I think they outsmarted themselves a bit. Where, how about we have some good players? Let's get some good players.
Some would be good. I'd appreciate that. Yeah.
Let's get some good players. And it's not like Willimer Flores is your cleanup hitter.
Yep.
And when Evan Longoria is cleaning up for you, and then you're like, well, we'll probably get rid of him. But I mean, you were hanging on by a thread there. There's no firepower in that offense at all. I also kind of worry about, I know I've heard you talk about it. Then I've heard Mason talk about it, other Giants fans, but sometimes going to fans is the best place to get it, especially the pessimistic ones because they're realistic. The defense on that team is really poor.
It's atrocious.
It's really poor. It's gotten worse. It's really poor.
And they didn't upgrade it this year, if anybody's curious.
Yeah, well, that's my problem is, again, a lot of the quoting is, well, look at the underlying metrics. You guys were very unlucky. Okay. Part of unluck, right? Part of bad luck in baseball is bad defense.
Yep.
And they don't always show up as errors because the defender was not fast enough, reactive enough to break in the right direction. And he missed the ground ball, got by him by 5 feet. So no, it's not an error. And those, affect your error indicators and are not reflected in reality. So I don't think I'm not really drafting any Giants. Although I thought it was funny you asked about late guys.
Yeah.
Because that I do. I really like Blake Sable. I think he might make the team.
He will.
And he has some really kind of impressive numbers in the minors. Also, I know people don't always go back that far, but he's 25, so he's kind of of age. And he could make the squad and get plate appearances for you as a catcher from another spot, which is awesome. Yep. We love that. And he's run before. So that's where you're seeing me draft catchers this year. I have the Bethencourts and I have the Sables. But I also I don't know if he's going to make the squad. I know Curlin was talking about him for a little bit, was Wisely.
Yeah. And
he had some interesting stuff in the profile. Again, I just don't feel like there's much standing in anybody's way in San Francisco. So it's almost like if anybody hits, Wisely's a little bit young. He's only 23, but he has played. It's just a cup of coffee, but they pushed him up to AAA at Tampa the end of the year. But he went off last year. What did I see? He had 15 homers and 31 steals in the minor leagues last year. So if you're looking for late speed, right? You got to identify bad teams at the end of these deep drafts because that's where the opportunities are going to be. Again, the other side of that is the players we're looking at are probably not very good either, and they have a high probability of being zeros. Well, I did this last year. I had everybody on the Oakland A's roster resource page, and it didn't matter it didn't matter how many shares of Christian Pache or Kevin Smith that I had. And so here I'm literally, that's the receipt. Like, if you know those names, you played Draft Champions.
Yep,
No one else even knows those. No one else even knows who they are. So you could play that game and lose. And Nick Allen also. I had all the A's, but that's where the late appearances were.
Yep.
This year it's different. Jace Peterson's gonna be good. Watch it.
Yeah, I got ridiculed on Twitter for that, or when they signed him. Like, this is the perfect Oakland A. This is the dude.
I'm trying to sell the Athletic on picking up. I want to write my case for the 99th percentile for an Oakland Athletics World Series.
Oh, that'd be amazing. That'd be an electric article.
You know what's funny? That as I was talking, I was like, that sounds so clickbaity, but it might be good. Whatever. I started.
It's like the next Moneyball movie. If it actually came to fruition, it'd be amazing.
Well, it obviously starts with Estuary Ruiz needs a 420 OBP and 95 steals.
99th percentile. You weren't kidding. Yeah. One more Giants question. I kind of think I know where you're going with this based on the horrific defense they have. Like Logan Webb, Alex Cobb, they're getting drafted, especially Webb. But then you got your Alex Woods of the world. You got so many other guys back there, Mania, Stripling. Like, they all have appeal, but again, it's the Giants. Are you interested in any of them come draft day?
I think I like Stripling. Yeah. I think Stripling's pretty interesting, although my worry is the hook on him.
Yeah, the early hook.
And if that's, I'm not sure if that's part of the book on him. The book on the hook is the book on him. That maybe the third time penalty. I don't like to quote that stuff because I don't necessarily understand that. I know the accounting is a little weird, though. That's one of those things we know is true, right? We know the third time through is tougher, but we have seen Stripling even in games where, I swear, there's games where he has 62 pitches thrown through 5 and he comes out, or you're expecting him 70 pitches through 5, you're expecting him to come out for the 6th and he doesn't. And I don't know what the usage is going to be like. Mania, we see the new velo. To me, it feels like chasing a little bit because now he's getting steamed. But I wouldn't be surprised if they're both good. But the defense behind him, I don't think is going to be. So there's a legit floor. And, we play in a game where ERA matters. We also play in a game where wins matter. And if a ball is going to squeak through and cost you a run that cost you a win, you have to look at the offense. And the offense stinks. So, a lot of my thinking a lot of times is not, is player good? It's, how does player fit into this whole formula or puzzle? And the Giants pitchers are hard to fit. I think that's right. I'm not trying to knock them. I think they're good.
No,
I think
the Giants puzzle's missing the border pieces.
Yeah.
That's the best way I can define it.
That's not a bad way to put it, because it's not like it's a bad puzzle. It's a nice puzzle. It's a nice puzzle.
The strength isn't there. The form, the strength in the puzzle's not there.
Listen, I like Logan Webb. I like Logan Webb. He's exactly the kind of guy I like to bet on first 5 innings. 100%. Because the team kind of comes with a bit of stank. No one wants to deal with him, but he'd get a double play for you every single inning. He might get you those 15 outs in 45 pitches, and you're off to a nice day. But yeah, it's tough. I like the pitcher skill, but I don't think the context behind him is there.
Yep. Let's go to the St. Louis Cardinals here. Got a couple outfielders to talk about. Lars Nootbaar, the pride of Japan. He's coming in at an ADP of 173. He was the talk of the town in fantasy earlier this year. It's kind of quieted down, I'll be honest, as there's been some rumblings and some extra outfielders making appearances. At 173 with Newt, are you in on Mr. Lars Nootbaar?
I don't know. Listen, I'm going to sound like a fraud. I have some exposure because I just didn't want to miss out. My fear was the price would be moving in perpetuity, like continue moving up.
I thought so too.
That hasn't happened, so I've kind of scaled back a bit. So he's part of a portfolio that I'm not really sure what I'm getting. And I'll be completely honest, I'm just afraid I'm chasing smoke right now because a lot of what my hope is based on is social media tweets.
Yeah.
Like Driveline stuff. He had an awesome interview with Eno. Again, this is not a knock on anybody involved in these stories, but that's not us, right? So you can hear him and he becomes likable. He was just good in World Baseball Classic. He's very white. He's even more likable. That's not the game we play. You've been often saying we're drafting stats. So I don't know, what are we going to get, right? Because we know he went through a bunch of changes. So I think that means we need to be careful looking at last year's statistics. The approach is pretty good, right? 6% K minus walk. elite swinging strike rates, really good. He's a little too patient for me. Like, though he didn't chase 24.5, his swing rate at 39% is way too low. That's actually going to hurt you. Is part of what he's learning how to be more aggressive? Is that going to then punish him as far as contact? So I don't know, man. I'm not sure what to expect. We thought he was going to lead off. Now we're not sure if he's going to lead off.
They came out. Their manager said it'll be a combination of Nootbaar, Edmund, and he mentioned one other player.
My boy Donovan is the guy. I
Donovan.
like.
I think that was the third one. He mentioned those three as they're going to rotate around.
He's the pro. Yeah. Has the prototypical.
He should be.
Lead-off.
The reason they like Nootbaar is he's a walking machine. His OBP is outstanding. He sets the table for the Goldies and the Arenados of the world. That's why they love Newt. But what else does he do? Like you said, I don't know. There's a lot of I don't knows with that Nootbaar.
Yeah, profile. It's gonna be interesting. I think you might be right. I think Donovan has just got this blue collar lunch pail kind of thing going on.
Yeah.
Where they're like, all right, we can hit him last. He's not going to have a problem with it. We can hit him first. He's not going to have a problem with it. He'll play anyway. They tell you, get your second baseman glove. He don't care. You're playing outfield. He don't care. Part of what I really like about him, aside from, I like the approach. I'm a big approach guy. Donovan has an elite plate approach. Elite. Well, and then they started saying, we're going to get him to start pulling the ball for more power. I was like, oh, no, it's going to cost him. Except he's coming out and he's maintained his contact rates.
That's what's been pretty impressive.
But he's hitting home runs. Yeah, I hate them. I mean, he was not on your list. He's the guy I'm most interested in the Cardinals because.
Yeah, and it goes back to what you were saying earlier in the show, and it's 100% true. Is like, you shouldn't rely on everything you see in spring, but there are certain things worth noticing. And Donovan's production has moved him up the board for me. I'm not like reaching for him, but he was kind of like just not even in my player pool for the most part early. He's entered the chat.
Yeah, I love that. I love that phrase, by the way. But you're also, I like that you're open enough to let people know that this is something I've had to grow myself. Once I said no to a player, I had a hard time kind of letting him back in.
Yep.
And I've letting people back in the circle, man. Yep. Luis Garcia, I'm drafting this year.
And it's just kind of you live, you learn, you grow. Your analysis changes. We change, they change. It's simple, and you have to adjust. So it's good.
Cool.
Another guy that might change, might not, is Tyler O'Neill. 2 years ago, beast. Last year, hurt a lot. And I think a guy of his physique, because I obviously wouldn't know, might get hurt a lot because he's got more muscles to pull than I do. It's just a tough scenario, but he looks healthy. Expectations are good. Are you in on Tyler O'Neill?
I have to say, I think last year was probably mostly injuries. And though his kind of disciplinary basket is still pretty flawed, if you told me this was going to repeat, meaning 27K to 10 walk, 12-7 swinging strike, 29.5 O swing, he's probably in line for a really good season.
Yeah.
Right. As long as the K rate doesn't get spike out of control, he's another guy that I kind of come around to. He has roto juice. He hits home runs. He steals bases.
Yep.
That matters, man. Sometimes a guy could really stink, but at the end of the week, you see a 1 and a 1 in the home run steal category. You're like, yeah, baby. Because that's what moved the needle for you, especially steals when they're critical. I know everyone's expecting steals to move up. I think they will. But in general, there's not many of them. And when they happen, you're really excited. So there's not many guys that can go 35-25.
Yep. Like, let's just have fun with it. You have O'Neill's ADP is 90.5. Adolis Garcia is 60.5. Tell me the difference.
I'm not sure what the difference is.
That's my point. That's my point. That's 30 picks.
Very similar. I mean, they're the same player probably.
Yep. That's why it's interesting to see how it plays out in that one. Jordan Walker was the talk of the town this spring. Gets a little shoulder boo-boo. Comes back a few days later. Stat line has not looked the same since returning from that injury, and now wants lock to make the team. Looks like he still will, but there's more questions involved. So are you in on Jordan Walker? He still has an ADP around 130.
No, they're way too crowded. The team in general is way too crowded for me. Yep. We're over here hoping, the other starters are going to play every day. Like, they have Dylan Carlson's raking this spring, and they don't want to give up on him. They want to trade this guy. Plus, he's a center fielder. We've heard them talk about O'Neill playing center. They have one of the most sturdy, everyday third basemen in the entire league.
Arenado ain't going anywhere.
He's not going anywhere. Walker, I don't know the deal, but this is kind of what you get overreacting. So if you overreacted to 3 home runs in 2 days and you pushed them up 100 picks, The other side of that is, what do you do when he strikes out 9 times in a row? We have to overreact. Well, you have to overreact to it too. And that's kind of the problem with overreacting is you chase the pendulum swing all over the place. I like to be more firm. I also, like I said, I don't know about these guys. I don't chase him on his time. That's not what I do. Now he's going. I couldn't even tell you where. I couldn't tell you where he's going. I just know he's going near players that are playing every single day that you could bank on. That's where we're going. So Walker, I'll have to miss on. I mean, for the people that and we're nabbing him, deep 40, 50 rounds. That's how you do it. All the props to you, major CLV. But right now you're paying a premium. No way.
Yep, I'm not a premium salesman, so that's out of my bag.
Yeah, that's a major premium too. Now you don't even
big
know
time.
if he's on the. He get demoted tomorrow. You know what I'm saying?
Yep. And you wouldn't be surprised.
No.
Enter Von Grissom.
Yeah, right.
Washington Nationals here. Last team on the National League to talk about. Not a lot to talk about. Joey Meneses, though, is a guy that's just I'm so torn on this profile. I'm like he's a journeyman, comes to the big, showcases some power, decent, okay, batting average. I just have so many question marks. Bad baseball team he's on. Are you interested in a guy like Meneses? Because he's going around 183 right now.
All right, he is one player that I think I've come around on, and it was actually due to one of my faithful readers who subscribed to my rankings and asked me why he was out of place. Now, I'm not the type to say because I said so. I go and kind of look. And some people really write you these thoughtful, kind of well thought out arguments. So I said, let me go check. I think maybe I was doing the parrot thing. I was just kind of repeating what I heard. He's just kind of late breakout and the team stinks, which isn't not false. That also shouldn't be enough to make him a non-starter. I did a little bit of digging, so check it out. His minor league 600 plate appearance pace going back to 2018, 296, 86, 108, 29 home runs. Dude, it's damn good. His Major League Baseball 600 plate appearance pace, 324, 83, 84, 33, and 2. Damn, pretty damn good. Steamer projects him for 260, 71, 81, 24, and 2.
Not bad.
And to that park stuff that I was mentioning, one of the other places that stick out like a sore thumb, looking at you, Josiah Gray, is Washington home runs to righties. So that was one of those places. They were top 5 in home run to fly ball and home run to barrel. Also to Josiah Gray, his home ERA was like 2 full runs higher. So Washington to righties in particular is one of the new kind of bandboxes that I don't think people are on yet because, again, they're using 3-year averages, which are behind the humidor. I'm admittingly overreacting a touch. I'm not saying I'm taking Washington guys in the first round, but I am weighing that. Whatever I'm weighing my environment for, that's what I'm using. I'm being very upfront.
Yeah, that's fair.
So I think Meneses is actually a really good pick where he's going.
Yeah,
he's a 0 in steals.
Yeah, he's slowly intriguing me. Like it's been a tough turnaround. So I'm curious.
He's never ever struck out a ton. He's always posted between 6 to 10% walk rate, which he'll do. Yep. Again, we want our power hitters swinging to that, right? And that's something that happens too much. It could be a little too reticent. So I actually bought into it a bit. The more that I dug, again, power probably being the thing that's I think we're going to find to kind of be at a premium. So I don't know. I think there's some potential there. And again, I love the park. So I think he's still cheap enough, right? No, he's one of the guys that has not gotten gassed up. He has dual eligibility in NFBC.
Yeah, he's still sitting at 180. He's still at 183, which is not.
And you can get first corner out of him.
Yep.
Which in draft and hold, I love eligibility. I don't know. Yeah. I don't think people talk about that enough. Maybe it's me. Maybe I just draft guys that are hurt too much. Dude, I can't fill a roster come July. So having that really helps. Yeah, I think Meneses is gonna be awesome. He's also one of my best ball teams.
Yeah.
People are kind of ignoring him. And he again, when we're talking spike weeks, a week of Meneses hot at home could be 5 or 6 home runs. And this could be a guy that he's registering those scores for you in best ball, right? Even if a lot of times he doesn't, the times he does are top flight scores. So, yeah, I have him marked for format dependency, but he's one of the guys I wanted to talk about because I've come around on him and I wanted to show people for it. Even though I'm very assertive, that doesn't mean I can't be convinced.
No, it's good. It's very good. Last question I have on the Nationals here. Any other players interest you on the Nationals? Because it's a murky situation as well. I used to be on CJ Abrams. I've kind of taken a step back on that one just because the Nationals have taken a step back on that one. Anybody else interest you for fantasy? Maybe Lane Thomas? I don't know.
No, I like Luis Garcia.
Yeah.
Again, I was a Gavin Lux guy, so losing him, I've had to fill that spot. Again, I like people to know, Bubba, me and you, we're drafting. Right, so some people, they're not drafting. We're drafting. Right, so you can't just lose Gavin Lux. You must fill the hole.
Yes.
And for me, it's Stott and or Luis Garcia. Right, you're kind of getting a mix, maybe hopefully in double. Right, he's had some potential. He's gonna Garcia, at least on the Washington, is gonna get every opportunity to play.
I like that,
and I think he can move the needle for you as far as speed, also. So I think there's some interest there. I like Josiah Gray. I tend to be different from the market. Eno stuff model doesn't love the fastball. Very, multiple FSWA winner Samsky. My boy Eric is not super hot on the fastball. I think it's actually good. I think it's a tweak away. I think the secondaries are very good. I've been trying to get Josiah Gray as my first bench pitcher, so I don't have to run him out there. And hopefully you have the luxury of even sitting him at home sometimes against better lineups. If, let's say, Josiah Gray is facing the Cardinals, who they're a good lineup, they're not a great lineup. They hit lefties much better than righties. I still wouldn't. They pull the ball, so I wouldn't want to face the Cardinals in Washington with Gray. So I don't want to put myself in a position. But I like Gray, and maybe even here and there the closer situation. I have a lot of Hunter Harvey late, hoping that maybe he would steal the job from Finnegan, who I think is just good but not great.
Yeah. I have a lot of late Hunter Harvey, so I'm 100% with you on that one. I think there's some upside to be had. All right, 15 National League teams in the books. Got a couple listener questions for you real quick. James AG1 says, where can I find info on average score after 5 innings? In other words, what's the number I need to break even on a first 5 plus 0.5 bet?
Wait, hold on. I think the questions are wrong. I think, man, it sucks. It's going to turn into a betting lesson. You just follow my betting stuff.
Yeah, this is
I generally don't recommend chasing bets and betting live. I think that's a losing situation unless you've pre-planned it. All my betting work is going to come down to that. No one ever likes my betting advice because it's all it's very regimented. It's very professional. I hate to be like that, but it is, right? So meaning unless you predetermine a part of your risk plan to be betting live, you shouldn't do it at all. I generally only bet live if I like a favorite, right? So, I don't start with a bet. So that's why this question is really rough. I usually eat my loss. Eat your losses.
Yep.
If you're down, just don't chase. Hopefully everything's planned out. Baseball gives you enough opportunities every day where you don't have to chase. Another key. I don't know. The only live bet I make, I should say, is giving good advice is, let's say the Yankees are minus 350. First of all, if you pay minus 350 for a baseball game, you're out of your freaking mind.
Yep.
Okay, you're out of your freaking mind. Because if they come out and are losing 2-0 in the first, it's going to be like minus 140. And it's the same game. And nothing has changed, only the first inning. So if you're really obsessed with, if you want a live bet, the best pathway to profiting on live betting is to wait for results to start to come in and bet favorites while they're down at a discount.
Yep.
Because 2 runs, 9 innings for the Yankees to make up 2 runs is nothing, especially against bad bullpens. Trying to calculate bullpens to that point exactly is why you do first 5 work in the first place. Meaning, I moved the first 5 work to eliminate bullpen work. Then don't. Yeah. If you're going to do that, which is like the smart, sharp thing, don't then go try and quantify bullpens, because not only do we not know when they'll be used, how much they'll be used, we don't know who's going to pitch. And then once we know who is going to pitch, we don't know how they're going to pitch. Yeah. It's too wonky. Again, this is why betting baseball leads so many people to zeros in their bank account.
Yep.
Because they're chasing these things they can't quantify.
Yep.
If you're going to eliminate it, eliminate it. Yeah.
No, it's a great point.
Yeah. So sorry, I didn't kind of answer it directly, but
no, it works. It's a betting is not a one-way street per se.
Yeah, it's not a joke to me either. You know what I mean? I don't want to lead people like, here, do this and lose. Sorry, if you don't like my advice, you don't have to listen to it. But I go to sleep knowing I help people try and win.
Yeah, it's fair. It's very fair. Our buddy Ben Tidd, great dude, has a question. Has John officially petitioned the NFBC to be their new live draft commentator?
Oh man, dude, that came up. Who was I tagging about that? Somebody like mentioned it, and I saw it on my timeline. They were talking about doing like red zone for the main event, and I was like,
Oh,
man, my
that'd be
ears are. I was like, my
electric.
ears are freaking ringing. Oh my god, my ears are ringing. Although you know what, I didn't see anything about the tag team draft. I announced that draft a couple years in a
Yeah.
row, but I didn't see it yet.
Yeah, that got put together kind of late. I don't know if they even drafted yet, to be honest. I know
See,
McDonald
this
put
year,
that together.
unfortunately, my little guy, he's okay. I don't want to into no thoughts and prayers. He's just been really sick lately.
Yeah.
I think he had a bad time with like COVID and stuff. He was bottled up, and now we're putting him in the wild, and he's getting sick every time he sees other kids. So my son, it's heartbreaking, dude. He's been sick at one time after the other. It's just been the worst. So I wasn't able to make the live stuff in New York. That's what I was going is.
Gotcha.
I'm hoping next year they do live stuff. I want to do auctioneer. I want to auctioneer.
You need to be an auctioneer. That'd be so
I'm bored for that,
amazing.
Right? Yeah. Oh, we're gonna have a great time too.
Even Tout Wars. Have them go over there for Tout Wars and do that. You need to be an auctioneer. Period. That'd be
amazing. I want to get involved. I'm gonna try and get more involved in the fourth dimension. And, NFPC is so great and they're so nice to us and stuff. And I want to interact.
For sure. Well, what else is great is you, my friend. You always bring it.
That was sick, yo.
Great individual, off the mic and on the mic. Smart man. Before we head on out of here, plug your stuff and remind everybody where they can find you.
Yeah, at Twitter, John Laghezza, JOHN LAGHEZZA. And then, really the thing I'm most proud of are those rankings and all the write-ups. I mean, if you see the arguments I'm making, that's where they're coming from. Where, I took the time in the offseason, and next time I have to start earlier and try and get through more of them. Something we mentioned before. I almost feel uncomfortable being asked to analyze guys I haven't done this kind of work for. So, if you're into the granular stuff, you really have to be a fan of it. But if not, I also just have lists for head-to-head rankings, underdog rankings. You can just upload, 625 players in 35 tiers. And then I'm writing at The Athletic, which has been really cool. I did a hitting primer and kind of stumbled on some cool stuff. Now, you got to pay to see all the graphs. But long story short, that pull power stuff is legit, bro.
Yeah.
Okay, because, we had the number of 30 home run hitters drop more than 60% since 2019. But the market share of pull power home runs has climbed throughout the dive.
Yeah.
So, that's where it's being found. So, follow my work. I hope it's cool. And then we're going to do some betting stuff. If you're into betting, I've been, again, I ask people how to lose. Don't take it the wrong way. But there is losing. And I think the day of, I tweet emojis every time I win something. It's that's it's antiquated and it's getting people into trouble. You want to be looking for handicappers that are talking more about risk plans,
Good move. Smart move.
Love you, Bubba, man. You're the best.
You are the man. I appreciate you, my friend. And don't forget, he left out a key thing. FSWA award winner. Best baseball article
so 2022. Oh my God, it's so cool.
Hey, us independent guys, that's big deal.
Oh, okay. I respect that, man.
That's big boy stuff. So
right.
That's one for the good guys is the way I look at it. And that's a big one. So everybody go check out John's work. It's great stuff. Really subscribe to The Athletic if you don't, because he does dive into things that most of us would not think about. It's pretty enticing stuff. So go check it out. But we'll wrap it up there. This was Benched with Bubba, episode 579, NFL Draft Storylines with the one, the only Big John Stud, John Leghezza. Catch you all later.